Molly Larson, what's up? It's good to finally see you.
I know, right?
I feel like we've known each other for a really long time, but it's one of those things where you're connected on social media through mutual friends and colleagues,
Mhm.
and you just never meet in person. So I feel like I've known you for 10 years or so, but we've never
Yeah.
met like face to face digitally or over Zoom or whatever.
Yep. Just pictures.
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you a little bit of an intro because it's kind of hard to like talk yourself up, and you have such a decorated and experienced past with competition that I want to make sure that people know like how big a deal you are and how
Oh,
experienced you are when it comes to competing. So you've been competing. I think you've done like 15 shows, body, physique shows. You've been competing since like way back, since like 2013,
mhm.
across multiple divisions, across multiple federations. I mean, NPC, um, NANBF, IPE, many wins, NPC overall, NANBF overall, pro cards. I mean, the list goes on. So you are very qualified to discuss what we're about to cover and about what we're going to discuss. So also, I mean, you're not just a bodybuilder. It seems like because you do take significant off seasons, which is hugely important. It's why you do so
Yep.
well and why you continue to improve, over the course of decade, years. So you keep getting better and better, and that's obvious. Like that definitely shows. But you're also a power lifter.
Yep.
And I believe at one time you had held the state deadlift record in Minnesota, and
Yep.
you're currently are you currently training for a powerlifting meet right now?
I am. I'm working through some injuries. So we're kind of trying to maneuver around them, but I'll be back. I'm coming back for that record.
Yeah, hell yeah. I love the confidence and the intensity. It's like you got a chip on your shoulder. I'm coming back. That's mine.
Oh yeah.
Um and you also just your last season of competition was 2023, correct? So
Yep.
you're yeah, so you and I were very fresh in the prep fields because we're both coming out of when we prep, we don't prep for it's not a short period of time,
No.
it's a long period of time.
Yep.
And it takes, like, how long do you think it takes you to get back to where you're feeling normal? I mean, it doesn't, I mean, for me it's 8 months to get like where I'm like, okay, all of the prep side effects are um non-existent. I think takes me like 8 months or so.
Well, I think it's hard because for you guys, for bodybuilders, I mean, I get pretty lean, but I don't get shredded like you guys. So I mean, it takes a little while, but thankfully I hired Peter this season. And last season I coached myself. Um, and I really did some stupid things where I wanted to get super lean and I really didn't care if I was going to sacrifice a little bit of muscle. I was going to suffer a little bit. And I just made some really stupid decisions.
What were
And
the
then when I,
decisions that you so and you're talking about Pete Fishin, who we're Pete's a good friend. We're actually recording on Tuesday.
nice.
So yeah, so I'm sure we'll talk about some fun stuff, but what were some of the things like some of the differences in the mistakes that you made in that prep when you weren't working with Pete?
So when I prepped myself, I think the hardest thing is you can't look at yourself objectively. Like, you know how it is when you're in the depths of prep, you have such bad dysmorphia. And I would sit there and I'd look at myself in the mirror and I would go, why do I still have this fat on my stomach? And then you look back at pictures, and once you're out of it, you're like, I don't know what I was thinking. That's skin. So I think I reached a point in prep in 2018 where I was like, oh man, I want to get down to 103, 104. I really got to grind it out. And that's when I could have stopped at like 107 pounds and I would have been great. But then I started to really cut my calories, add in some more cardio just to kind of get that last little bit. And I mean, I think I probably lost minimal fat and probably sacrificed some tissue. And it was just really stupid. So I think if I had been left to my own devices this season, I probably would have done the same thing because there was times I told Peter, I don't feel very lean. I think we should push. And like, thank God for him because he would bring me back down to earth and say, you know, you're right on track. Let's just chill out. We're going to leave it be. And then we'd coast for another week or two and the weight would keep dropping. So the difference in where my calories were in 2018 versus this season and where the cardio was at was just night and day.
Were you super low calories and super high cardio?
In 2018, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you always have to push it, right? But I mean, when you're down to like, to 1,100 to 1,000 calories and just, yeah, that's, having that set of like objective eyes to kind of, because you're right. You can't really, what you see in the mirror with your own eyes isn't the same as what another person sees or what even you see when you're not engulfed in prep. It definitely has a way of changing the way that you see yourself, which is something we're definitely going to talk more in depth about. So that's why even coaches have coaches, because it's, I mean, the fact that you made it through the finish line, like, yeah, maybe you sacrifice, you weren't to your full potential, but the fact that you did that and stuck to, it wasn't for lack of trying. It was like, you went too hard,
Yeah.
like you went too much. So like, even there's a time, because there is a time to step on the gas, right? Like there is a time
Yeah.
when it's like, I do see like, like there's fat on the tie-in or, the lower set of abs or, whatever. And it's okay. Like there's only one thing to do. We have to keep pushing. So there's a time for that, but there's also a time to step on the brakes and realize when you're going too fast, because you can go too fast. And that's also kind of like why we opt for longer preps. So you don't have to, because there's so many different things in a prep that can come up. Like, I mean, just even getting sick, right? Like that's not something you plan for.
Yep.
Let's say you get something. I had a client get in a car accident once, and then they had to
Oh.
take like a bunch of medication and stuff, and that was throwing things around. So it's like by
Mhm.
planning ahead for these things, the best way to do that is just giving yourself time. So like if there's not, a huge rush, you can plan for all these different things, but we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. So first off, we're going to have to explain what's going on with our backgrounds and with our outfits, because we didn't plan any of this. And also someone is directing Molly's Zoom. I think she hired a professional director, because I'm noticing that her camera is going up and following her. So
It's John Carpenter. We already decided on that.
So your technology is top notch over there. But the look, all of the stuff, like all of the accolades and accomplishments, obviously those are like really impressive. But the real reason you and I connected online is we share a very similar taste in our passion. So things like movies, we love horror movies. Like the both of us, just this time of year, which is why this episode is coming out on the week of Halloween, is because spooky season. That is, I think I speak for both of us when I say it's spooky season year round for us.
Yep.
The rest of the world just joins during the month of October. Am I right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we didn't even plan like the the trinkets and the grip, the Halloween stuff. I mean, Molly's her house is like the coolest house on the block, because she's got just awesome Halloween decorations. I'm sure you hook up all the kids with just the best, none of that bullshit. Like, okay, like what are the worst candies, and like what are the best candies for like Halloween?
I see.
I have definite thoughts on this.
I know but they're so bad. I don't even know the name of them, but you know them when you see them.
What do they
Like you see,
what do they look like?
it's like those. My least favorite ones are those. They look like Tootsie Rolls, but they're like
Oh,
fruity flavored.
yeah, those suck. Yeah,
Where do you
those
even
do
get those?
suck.
That has to be like dollar store candy.
Yeah, I think so. I think that that is dollar store candy. Not that you can't like come across some fire ass. And you know what's funny is like we're still not fully like out of prep, and you're still saying those things suck. That means they suck. Like
Yeah, that's
because during
exactly
prep
right.
anything is going to be just incredible. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a very unpopular opinion about Halloween
Ooh.
candy.
Ooh, let's hear it.
Candy corn is awesome. Yeah,
Oh
I
God.
love candy corn. In fact, I sent some candy corn overseas to someone that I was working with, just because they couldn't get their hands on it, and I
Wow.
sent them like that because I posted like in my story, I was like, unpopular opinion, um, candy corn is actually fire, and they were like, dude, yeah, candy corn is amazing. He's like, I wish I could get it. I was like, dude, and I sent him like more candy. I sent him a life supply of candy corn. Cost me like
You want to know why?
$200.
You want to know why you were able to do that? Because no one
What?
buys candy corn.
I
No one buys
know
it because it's terrible.
why, and it's like it's so like sugary and like vanilla-y and caramel. Like, yeah, I really love it. I think the thing about candy corn. See, I told you we were gonna go down some yeah, it's like strap in because we're gonna be all over the place. Which is the point. So, um, candy corn. I think the color scheme is what throws people off. I think that I mean those are orange, yellow, and white are very unpleasant to the eye, and I think that's a turnoff.
Mm.
And so I think that. And I also think it's kind of like pop culture to hate candy corn. So, like, if you go into something knowing it sucks, you're more inclined to think that it sucks. Do me a favor. When's the last time you had candy corn?
That's actually a good point. It's been a really long time. And taste buds change, but I think I hated it so much that I just swore it off for life. And I
Yeah.
don't see it anymore because it's like
Yeah.
nobody buys it, so I don't ever have a chance.
Except
Like,
for
I'm
this
not gonna go
guy.
buy it. Well,
Except
send
for
me some
this
candy
guy.
corn and I'll
Yeah,
try it.
for sure. So this Halloween, I want you to try candy corn and just drop all the past like trauma with the candy corn. Like, try to go into it with open arms and open taste buds and just give it a try. I'm wondering if you'll if you'll like it again. But like definitely, I mean, Reese's, right? Like that's like, I mean, for bodybuilders, like especially because like peaking and everything, like you're backstage, like how good are those Reese's cups
Oh
when
my
you're
God.
backstage and you're getting pumped up and it's like you're getting ready to go on stage and you're just you taste it and you're just like, oh my God, there's nothing better. Like there's
There's
nothing
nothing
better.
better than that. Nothing.
No.
Especially when you like compete around the holidays where it's like in the spring there's Easter and then in the fall there's Halloween. So you get the really good Reese's, like the eggs and the bats and the pumpkins, because you don't have those crappy
Yeah.
edges and it's all like center. Oh, those are the best
Yeah.
ones.
Now, do you typically compete? Well, before I get into that, I guess I should talk about what we're going to talk about today. So when we were kind of collaborating on what we want to talk about, we wanted to talk about something that was interesting, something that a lot of people don't talk about, and then also something that people can, get some value from, of course, because I want it to be entertaining, but also like I think, based on your competition history with like how long you've been doing it. I mean, you're a professional. Like you are a professional. You've been doing this a long time. And so you've been through the ringer. And you know what? And you're consistent. Like you don't ever stop. So like, you made all the mistakes. Like you already started saying, like coaching yourself. And there are so many things you've learned from doing this for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk, when we were kind of figuring out what we want to talk about, we both thought that like the drawbacks of prep would be something really interesting to talk about because like, and I will preface this by saying like, look, obviously we love doing this. You don't do this for, 10 plus years, 15 plus shows across all these different divisions, all these different awards. Like you don't do that unless you love it. So you love this, like you are passionate about this, and you can't, to be honest, you cannot, if you don't love this, you're just not going to make it to the finish line.
No, there's no way.
No. And yeah, you also got to be a little kooky, which I think we are, proudly. So I want to preface this by saying like we're not hating on competition. We love competition. We love it so much that we continue to do it despite all of these different drawbacks and the negative sides to it. So that's what we're going to talk about today is like so I like to do lists. I told you like I like to kind of compare and compare like where we put things, because we purposely did not like show each other our lists both for the drawbacks of prep. So this is going to be all fresh to both of us. So I'm interested to see like where your drawbacks are so we can like compare them, because I bet you we're going to have a lot of the same ones. And then also we're definitely going to make this a Halloween themed, because like that's our thing. So this is like the Halloween special, we're going to call it. And we're going to do another list, and we're going to call it, we're going to compare our top 5 horror movies of all time. So saw your face light up. When
it was hard. It was hard to narrow it down. I'll tell you that.
I'm going to tell you something. I struggled more with this list than the drawback list.
Drawbacks were easy. That one just came. I'm like, all right, I have like 14 things on my list, and those were just quick. And then for the top 5, I'm like, man, it's like choosing your favorite child. There's just can't.
It was. We had the same exact experience. I was like, so the drawbacks, I was like, boom, 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 boom. Okay, that's whatever. I sat there and like, I even was like thinking about it like at night. I was like, but what about this one? Because you're talking about top 5, and like, that's like, that's it. Like if that would be like the only 5 you could ever watch again, like everything after that. So you have to be like super choosy. And I had a hard time. Actually, the first 2 were pretty easy for me. Like my 1 and 2 were easy because I know my 2 favorite, they're basically the ones I rewatched the most. But I went back and forth for 3, 4, and 5. I went back and forth. I rearranged some stuff. And then I was like, all right, I had to like walk away. I'm like, all right, I think this is it. So we'll finish there. But okay, so let's go ahead and get started. And I want you to go first because you're the guest always goes first. So what is your first drawback of prepping?
So we had talked about how we're kind of talking about the things that people don't really talk about. So I think when people talk about prepping, they're like, the people who haven't done it, they're like, oh, I'm sure you're really hungry, and I'm sure you're really tired, and I'm sure you're really craving a lot of food. And you're like, yeah, kind of, but those things that's fine. I can handle all of that.
Yeah.
That's not even that big of a deal. But then there's the things that people who have never done it don't know about. So I think the one that was the worst, and it's good that we're both kind of fresh out of season, because it's fresh in your mind. It's one of those things where you kind of have to take a long break because you need to forget how miserable it is when you're in it to want to be able to do it again. And then you start again and you're like, oh man, now I remember why I was so miserable. I completely forgot about 90% of these things.
Have you ever competed back to back seasons? I think you have, right?
I have, but that was when I was really new and I like didn't get lean enough. I didn't have to really dig deep.
Okay.
So it was a lot more manageable, but I mean, I was just talking to a friend who did back-to-back 2020, 2021, and she said that was just horrible, miserable. Nightmare. I can't even imagine, because you don't even have time to recover from the first season. By the time you're like a little bit back to normal, you're right back in it again. So it's like, I don't know how people do it.
Not well.
No. And then you step on stage and you're worse than you were. Usually you're worse than you were the year
R-
before
right.
because you're going to sacrifice some tissue when you're dieting.
I honestly think doing multiple shows is hard. Like
Uh,
doing multiple shows a season, like when people are doing like a bunch of shows in a single season, I even think that is very challenging.
I do not recommend because I did that this
Hmm.
season and my first show was at the beginning of April and then my last show was at the end of May. So for that like
Yep.
2 months stretched out, by mid-May, I was like, I don't know if I should have signed up for this last show because you're just your body decides we're done. You know
Yeah.
how it is where it's like fighting you and you're like your brain's done, your body's done. You're just like, that's it. That's all I got. I can't do anymore.
Yeah, because you got to stay. You're basically just staying as long as you're lean enough. You're just staying where you're at for a full month and
Yeah.
then just peaking again. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's difficult for sure.
Yeah. So I would say the first big drawback of prep for me was I'll be interested to see if you kind of you could probably put it
Mhm.
in better words when you get to that point in prep where you feel like you're kind of crawling out of your own skin. Like I had a friend who she just did her first prep and she said it felt like a buzzing feeling where you're
Mm.
so uncomfortable in your body that it's like you want to get out of your own body and walk away and you can't do anything about it because it's obviously your body, but you're just so I think you're so hungry and you're so uncomfortable and your lizard brain kicks in and it's just kind of a
Yeah.
survival instinct.
Yeah, you can like there are times where you're not doing anything strenuous at all. Like you're just existing. You're just like taking a shower or something and you're just like, "Oh my God, like my body, I can feel my body like burning through the calories." And it's just like existing, just being there, just thinking. Because like even thinking, right? That takes
Oh yeah.
calories.
Yep.
All of your motor functions, everything that you do, every movement you make, which is why like in prep you tend to, unless you forcibly like make yourself walk or like park in the parking spot that is further so you take more steps intentionally, which is
Mm-hmm.
something like it's just good practice to do because you tend to instinctively do less and move less because your body is just conserving energy, and that
Yep.
feeling of just existing and just being alive, being awake is so hard at that last like, you know, just when you're getting there like that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a sign that you're getting there.
Yep.
And just totally. So what would you categorize that as? So like what should we call that? So I mean, like just like because I'm on the same. It's funny. I'm on the same page as you as where like when I was thinking about my list, I didn't even include hunger and fatigue because I thought those were too boring and too standard. So I was like,
Yep.
I'm like, I want to talk about the stuff that nobody talks about, like the fucking just the deep, deep, deep stuff, you know?
Yep.
And so I didn't even include like hunger and fatigue, which are like the main symptoms of prepping. I didn't even include them in the list because I'm with you. I want to talk about like the other stuff.
Yep.
So what should we call that? Because I don't know what is the name for that? Like it's like a physical response.
I don't know if you can call it like a physiological discomfort, but it's one of those things where it's like even if you were getting a massage, if you're in the bath, like it doesn't matter how comfortable you are.
No.
Like it's like your whole internal body is just uncomfortable. It's just you want to escape
I
and you can't. And
know.
it's a terrifying feeling. I just remember when I was kind of near the end last season, I was walking my dogs and I almost burst into tears because it's like I was so uncomfortable and there was nothing I could do about it. I was just like, oh, I want this to stop.
That's a good way of put because there are some times where you almost feel like emotional where
Yep.
you're like you just kind of not that. I mean, some people do burst into tears, but there's times where I'll just kind of be like,
Yeah.
like I'll be in the shower and I'm just like, and the whole, it's so funny. It's like every prep, I'm like, dude, I was like, I'm gonna be so shredded this summer. I'm like, I'm definitely
Yep.
gonna like make a point to like go out and like do stuff because it's so temporary, and
Yeah.
like we only compete like every 3 to 5 years. Like, didn't you take like a good 5 year like off season or
Yep.
like 4 year
It
off
was like
season
four
last
and a
time?
half years, I
Four and a
think.
half years, like,
Yep.
yeah, and obviously like you make such huge improvements,
Hmm.
but I mean, it's such a short window of time that you're like actually lean. So you want to do things like get photos taken, even taking photos like in the gym and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like I always tell my clients, I'm like, make sure you're taking lots of photos. Like
Yep.
you're only gonna be here for like, a very small amount of time. And it's like the last thing you want to do is like be flexing on Instagram or taking pictures, but taking the photos is so important because you're only lean for such a small period of time.
Yeah.
So, but it's hard. Like doing that stuff, you don't want to do it. You don't want to do anything other, to be honest, the only thing you want to do is sit around and wait. And you're like, does your bedtime like get earlier during prep?
Oh yeah. Well, it's a time machine. It's like if I go to bed at 8:30 instead of 10:30, then it's a time machine to breakfast when I get to eat again.
It's
And
all
then
about
when I was
food.
in 2018, I would kind of fast in the morning so
Mm.
I could kind of have my meals a little closer together. So I wouldn't eat my first meal until like noon. So I really pushed it and I kind of trained my body. But then I ran into this problem of I would just have coffee, but then coffee on an empty stomach, I think it gave
Oh,
me like super bad acid reflux. So
oh
then
yeah.
in 2018, the last 3 weeks of prep, I didn't know what was going on, but I just had this like excruciating stomach pain. And it took me a couple years to be like, oh yeah, it was probably all that coffee I was drinking on an empty
On an
stomach,
empty stomach.
which was great when I was trying to kind of curb the hunger until my next meal, but then it was just tearing apart my insides.
Food hoarding is a real thing.
Oh yeah.
I'm still not there. Like, remember we were talking about like, I don't know, you posted something about like you were hoarding your food and
Yep.
and I was like, cause I'm still there where I'm like, I really, um, like going to bed without eating a big meal, like having that food volume before you go to bed because sleep is so like hard to come by, which is, I'm kind of, spoiler alert, that's going to be on my list.
Hey, me too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But like you're thinking about food, you dream about it, like you dream about food, and like
Yep.
so your schedule ends up being more about like closing those windows of hunger
Hmm.
than anything else. And like you're like, okay, it's 9:30, so okay, I think I'll have this meal so that way I'm in, because then I'm in bed before 10, like, or whatever. And I'm like, I'm not in bed before 10 usually. Like
No.
I'm kind of like a night owl. So like,
Yep. Me too.
I mean,
It's
I
wishful
enjoy,
thinking.
yeah. So you end up
Hmm.
like changing all of your, um well, everything revolves around food, so your schedule starts to revolve around food, and then
Yep.
like I'll be like, one, I have all of these weird, not weird, but they're just like habits that come up during prep and after. So I'll even be plugging my breakfast into my fitness pal like at night when I'm in bed, just like getting, so that way like when I wake up, I mean, I pretty much eat the same thing every day anyway, but like I know there's just comfort in like, okay, it's already plugged in, it's already factored
Yep.
in. I know what I'm having, and I would do that like laying in bed on my phone, before
Smiling.
bed.
Oh, it's almost
Yeah,
time.
like I can't wait to go to bed because I can't wait to wake up because
Yep.
I can't wait to eat. Meanwhile, even if you eat, like it doesn't, it's not like it puts a dent in you, but it's just
No.
that act of doing it. So
Yep.
yeah, so that's definitely a good one. Like that feeling, because I know the exact feeling that
It's
you.
hard to describe though, unless you felt it. You're just like, you know, it's that feeling. And then other people are like, oh no. But if you've been there, you know.
I think a lot of people, if anyone listens who competes, then they'll understand. If anyone listens who doesn't, they probably won't understand, but they'll be like, ah, that sounds pretty terrible.
Yeah. Yep.
um so my now, when you did your list, did you put these in any sort of order, or are they just five? Because I didn't really put these in, like, mine are not in, these are just the top five. They're not like, okay, number one is the worst, number five is the, I didn't really put them in order. Did you?
No, I jotted them down and then I put like asterisks next to the ones that were like the top ones. But the top like
Yeah.
5 or 6 aren't in any order. They're all kind of equally terrible. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think they're all kind of like tied for first place for some of these.
Yeah, they all equally suck. All right, so my one is just the change in hormones. So uh so things like leptin, ghrelin, there are hormones that are responsible for hunger and satiety. You cannot get full.
No.
You can eat. So, like, when you eat a meal, one of the things that is satisfying is that feeling of satisfaction. I mean, the taste is obviously great. Like, when you eat for taste, and you're like, and things do taste incredibly good, but you cannot, the feeling of getting full, you cannot achieve.
Yep.
It's very hard. You have to basically binge and just go really crazy on some food to feel that feeling of full. So by the time you get to the end of prep, like, imagine not being able to get full for a year. Like,
Yeah.
like, because when we prep, it's not like we prep. I mean, we prep for basically like a year. It's like a full year.
Yep.
And you got to consider that it's not like prep is over, things are back to normal. No, no. And that's why people like binge out so bad. It's not because, I mean, it's because you're just like an empty cave and you cannot possibly get full, which is like a really brutal thing because you're so lean and all your body wants to do is store fat. So, like, imagine like in a post-show setting, because post-show is a big one. We're going to talk about that for sure. Mind and body. We're definitely going to talk about the mental aspect of all this. Because right now we're kind of talking about like all of the like physiological stuff, but the mind is crucial with all this. So yeah, imagine just never being able to get full, being so lean, your body just wants to store fat. So it's so easy to just go overboard and store fat post show because you have no off switch.
Yep.
Your taste buds are enhanced. Everything tastes amazing. I can bet you right now, if I gave you some candy corn during prep, you'd be like, "Oh my god, this is the best thing ever." You're like,
yeah,
"No, not even
cheat
prep."
codes though.
Like,
Give it to me deep in the
that
off
is
season, and then I'll get an accurate read.
that is a cheat code. That is a cheat code. But yeah, so that part is it's so frustrating because I'm like, I would give anything right now just to get full. Like, I just want to feel not even hungry, like starving. And so, like, when you're done with your meal, no matter how, hey, just drink a bunch of water with it. Hey, eat slow. No, we're talking about a different level. This isn't like normal stuff. This is like, being on stranded on a desert and then like, giving someone water. Like, this is human instinct. You are starving, literally. This is that's what body, I mean, getting lean, like, people, there's like this, you ever see like or have someone talk to you about bodybuilding, they're like, so you must have to eat like a ton of food to get on stage. And you're like, no, you have to eat like so little food when you get there. Like it's the
Oh, I get the
opposite.
opposite. I get the opposite where I'll have a client be like, "Oh, do you want some of these potatoes?" And then the other person will be like, "Oh, she doesn't eat carbs."
Oh, yeah.
So they think
Okay.
I eat absolutely nothing. So it's so funny how it's like one way or the other. And I think for
Yeah.
men, they probably like, "Oh, the guys got to eat a lot and the women got to starve themselves." And it's like, nah, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, yeah, because I do get like, hey, you must when people like when they're they don't have the knowledge or whatever, they'll say, or because like certain bodybuilders do have to eat a shitload of food going into prep. But for natural, you have to be in a calorie deficit, and
Yeah.
you're eating. It's not uncommon to be eating very, very low calories and doing
Mm-hmm.
large amounts of cardio. Yeah, that's funny. Like though for women that they'll think like you're just eating like lettuce or something to get you're like
Yep.
no you have to eat carbs and you have to eat fats and all of these different things, but so that's definitely one. And then the drops in testosterone are brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's some research that shows like a natural bodybuilder has a male has the testosterone of a 75 to 80-year-old man on show
Oh
day.
my God.
So that, I mean, you definitely feel the dips in energy and just it feels terrible. Like you can
Yeah.
feel it. It feels terrible. And it's also kind of why, like, you notice like how when everyone's backstage, you have all of these attractive people running around in nothing. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
guys are wearing thongs, women are wearing thongs, like everyone is almost naked. And sometimes
Yep.
people are naked because everyone's so focused on like changing and all that stuff. Nobody gives a fuck.
No.
Nobody cares. No guy is looking at a woman. No woman is looking at. Everyone is so focused on what they're trying to accomplish and food. Like
Mm-hmm.
all anyone wants to do is eat. Like that is where people's heads are. So like that that shows a lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody is focused on other people. Everyone's just like, yeah, that's fine and all good job. You look great. So about those cupcakes that you got over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah. Well, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs where you got to start at the bottom and then build. So if you like, I think the basics are food. So if you don't have that covered, you can't focus on anything else because it's like that basic foundation isn't covered.
right. Yeah, it's super interesting. And I remember like it's interesting competing for the first time too, because like now you kind of know what to expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
It never gets easier. Like, do you think it gets easier? I don't think it gets easier. I think you just know
No.
what to expect.
Yep.
And you become more equipped and you become better at prepping because I do think it's a skill. Like
Yeah.
just ignoring hunger and all of these, and it's like such a foreign thing for someone to be hungry and not eat.
Yeah. Yeah, it is because it just fights your basic instincts. Like, all right.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's why, I mean, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I mean, that's why when you're deep into prep and you can't sleep, your body's waking you up like, hey, what are you doing? You're starving. Get up and go get food. But it's you're fighting your natural instinct to survive and thrive. And I think that's what throws everything. It kind of flips the chessboard. Everything's muddled because you're just not doing your most basic, just eating to
Yeah.
live.
Yeah. It is. It's you're doing the opposite of what your body wants for a long time, for
Mm-hmm.
a very long time. And so you mentioned sleep. So let's talk about sleep because I kind of have a so sleep for me, that is the first thing to go. So that
Yep.
it doesn't take that long for me for sleep to, I don't know what it is about me that, I mean, everyone, everyone gets affected by it, I think. Well, maybe not everyone, because there are some people that can sleep throughout the night, no problem. I've never been that way. Sleep has always been the first thing for me to go. And it's so, recovery is so important. And just like feeling alert, and just not thinking about food, like when you're sleeping, you're not thinking about food unless you're dreaming about it, which does happen. But when you're waking up like every hour of the night because your body's like, feed me, feed me, feed me, and you're just like so lean and so hungry, and you can't, and the reason you can't go to bed is because you're hungry. And if you do like wake up and eat, you could go right back to bed. Like you're like, oh, okay, like it's, but you can't eat, so you just have to wake up and just be miserable. And sometimes you'll sit there and toss and turn. And I remember, so this is pretty bad. I don't think I've certainly never told anybody about this publicly, but so how we were talking about like back-to-back seasons?
Yep.
So my first season I did, I competed, and then I did another season right after that. So the first one went, it was standard, for your first show or whatever. Like, you remember like when you competed for the first time and you were like, this is just cool. Like, I'm just lean for the first time. Like, I've just always wanted to do this. This is just cool. That's how my first one was. It was like no pressure, like no pressure at all to like do well. Like, you never won anything. You're an amateur. Like, you don't even know what to expect. The first show I ever competed in was the first show I was ever at. I never went to a show before competing. Wow. Yeah. So, so that was all fine. And then the second season, I did there was like a 6 to 8 month turnaround, and then it was prep time. It's just not enough. And this was the season that I did all of the, stuff that you don't want to do in prep. All the different little, watching the Food Network and just we've all been there, right? Yep. We've all been there. And so sleep for me was just brutal. And so I started taking diphenhydramine, which is like the ingredient in NyQuil that makes you sleep, ZQuil or whatever. It's like, but I didn't want to take shots of ZQuil. Hey, people don't realize there's like 20 carbs in a shot of, it tastes like shit. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Most people don't. Yeah. There are, so like if I'm in prep and I'm sick, I will weigh out that on my food, on my scale, ZQuil. And
no, just imagine having to sacrifice carbs for that.
Oh, and it's terrible. It tastes disgusting. But you know what? You want to hear something funny? Just to give you a little bit of mindset about prep, there were times in prep where I got sick and I was weighing that ZQuil out, and I was sipping on it like it was a fine wine.
Yep.
And it was the berry flavor. And to be honest with you, I was enjoying it. And that just goes to show you how bad. Can you imagine somebody drinking ZQuil because of the taste, like enjoying the taste? Like, that's how bad things get when you're, deep in the shit of a hard prep. And but I used to not want to come off those carbs, right? Because like I'm not spending 20 carbs on ZQuil every damn night. So I started buying them in pill form. You could get them in pill form. I started taking the recommended dose, which was like, I think it was like 2. I don't know how it happened over the course of like prep. I want to be, one thing I want to do with this, I want to be honest. So, I was taking up to, there was a time, it was a couple weeks. I was up to 10 of those things every single night, and not like, you build up tolerance to that stuff so fast. And I remember when I went to my doctor and I was getting a checkup, I was just talking to him, and I was telling him, and when I saw the look on his face when I told him that I was taking 10 of those, that was enough to like freak me out. Like I saw the
Mhm.
look on his face and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm done. And so I stopped cold turkey. And it
Yep.
really only took like a couple nights uh before like everything was back to, you know, where I didn't need so much. Like you build up tolerance and then you do go through withdrawal, but it's not like that long. Like it's only a couple. I mean, you could go a couple nights. If you go a couple nights without sleep, eventually you're gonna go to sleep.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So what about you? What is like? How long does it take before you start feeling the effects of like lack of sleep? When does your sleep take a hit?
So I think it really depends. 2018, it was pretty quick. But I think that was just me being reckless with calorie cuts. And I think it was just, it wasn't even the calories. It was just how,
2018 sounds like you're my 2015.
my God, it
Like
was so bad. And
20.
I think I reached out to Peter like pretty much right away. And I said, next time I compete, I'm hiring you. And when I knew I was going to compete again, because after 2018, I didn't know actually if I was going to compete again. Um,
Mhm,
I just really didn't enjoy it. Shocking. I know. After the little bit I've told you, it's like, yeah, that was really unenjoyable.
mhm.
Um, so I really didn't know I was going to compete again until like 2022, maybe late 2021, where I was like, I'm watching shows, I'm seeing people post. I'm like,
That
all right,
time
I think
off
it's
does
kind
a
of,
lot for that, right? Like it
yep,
whenever you're in it, you're like, why am I doing this? Like, what, you know, it's not like we're making money doing this. Like, why are
yeah,
we doing this? Like, what is the,
yep,
you know, and that's where like the passion comes in. Like, you're like, let's do, you know, there's something about like, do you agree that there's something about doing something that most of the population cannot do that like kind of flips a switch in you? You're like,
oh
most people
yeah,
can't do this. Like, I'm doing something that most people can't even. People have a hard time sticking to a normal, you know, just not even diet, like regimen, like normal, you know, consistency with a full week of consistency. And consistency for us is like consistency, like
hmm
everything accounted for. Because if you don't account for everything, every morsel, every supplement being weighed on your food scale, every condiment, like even tracking coffee, even if it doesn't have anything, like that's nothing is nothing. Nothing and you
yeah,
put
exactly.
nothing that you put in your body other than water is nothing.
hmm
So consistency is like stringent.
Yeah,
A lot of people have a hard time being just loosely consistent on a weekly basis. So doing that over the course of a prep, like I don't care who the person is, like you know, a lot of people do it, but there's something to be said for following through and making it from start to finish in one piece. And sometimes you need to drag yourself across the finish line.
yeah. Well, I think I've even said I don't. For some people, it's like the goal is stage, and then for other people, it's the whole process. And personally,
Like,
I like the process more than I actually don't really like show day or being on stage. I just don't. I'm like, I could get all the way up to Friday before the show and then call it quits. I like to suffer. I, that's why, like, this is going to sound ridiculous, but with Peter, for a while, I was like, this is too easy because he wasn't slashing my calories. He wasn't jacking up my cardio. I'm like, it doesn't even feel like I'm in prep. And I kind of want to hurt because that's the fun part of prep is can I push myself to the absolute limit? How far can I take my mind? How far can I take my body? And like you kind of want to feel the hurt because it's really satisfying to know that you're doing something that not very many people can do. And I think each season you want to just keep pushing it to the next level to see how much you can actually handle.
it's so interesting that you said that about um not necessarily being uber passionate about show day, but you're passionate and you enjoy the process
Mm-hmm.
because that's how I feel. It's show day. It's like a means to an end.
Yep.
So going through the process, which is arguably more important. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's the, that's what show day, you're talking about an hour. Actually, you're not even talking about an hour. You're talking about like maybe a few minutes on stage.
Yep.
I think the longest I was ever worked on stage was like 10 minutes, which was brutal.
Yep.
We were brutal, which was this past season. But like, if you don't love the process, like what is the point of, because you're just talking about 10 minutes. So
Yep.
I could easily go through the process and not compete and be just as happy. It just doesn't make sense to not
Right.
compete. Like,
Well, you kind of got to put a period at the end of the sentence where you're like, and we wrapped it up.
exactly. Yep. And even so, like my mindset with prep has always been whatever happens on show day, as long as I brought it and as long as I did everything that I could do during prep. I didn't cheat on my diet. I didn't miss training session. I did everything that I was supposed to do. And then whatever happens on show day, I can kind of, unless there's like a judgment call I don't agree with or something like that, which happens. It does happen. It's very subjective, and there are, certainly calls. Like I don't mind losing if I deserve to lose.
Exactly. And I've actually said that a million times where I'm like, if you beat me fair and square,
yeah,
that is just fine. But it's just a matter of like, man, if and it almost hurts when people are like, oh, you deserve to win. You're like, don't tell me that because then it's gonna really mess with me. I want to just feel like, okay, what happened happened. And I think what's hard for at least my division, which is bikini, which is so, I mean, every season I feel like they want something different. So it's like, at least for like bodybuilding, it's like, okay, are you big? Are you shredded? Are you symmetrical? How's your posing? It's pretty consistent. But with bikini, sometimes they want soft, sometimes they want hard, sometimes they want muscular, sometimes they want a little more small frame. And so I kind of have always gone in my preps where I like to be lean, I like to be muscular, I like to be really hard. And the placings might not necessarily go my way, but at least I'm on stage the way that I want to be. And
yeah, because even if you lose, you're like, you're too good, right? Like they're like, you're too, like, because muscle, like you have too much muscle. Like, okay, yeah,
sweet. Yes. Like thank you so much. What a compliment.
Molly, how do you feel when women say, or no, it doesn't just have to be women, when anyone says, okay, I want to do this, I want to work out, I just don't want to get too big or too muscular? How do you feel when people say that?
I go, oh, I've been trying to get too big for 10 years and I'm actively trying to get really big, and it still hasn't happened. So if you get too big, tell me how you did it, because I'm dying to know.
It doesn't happen on accident, right? Like it takes, it takes, you're like, oh no, you're good. Cause it takes decades and decades of doing every single thing in your power to try to get too big. And even then you're still likely not going to achieve it. Cause we're going to touch on that too. Cause I got something about that. But is there anything else that you want to like piggyback on with the sleep? I think we could both agree that it sucks, and for me, it's one of the hardest part because I love sleeping. Like I love taking a nap. I love like, do you take naps during prep at all? Or
I actually don't. I'm pretty busy and I don't actually have time for naps. And weirdly enough, my energy levels aren't terrible during prep. And I think with this last one, my sleep only suffered for a couple of weeks. And thankfully I had a friend that she was like, take magnesium. So I took magnesium before bed and it really helped. It was like once I started to feel my sleep was being disrupted, I started doing that. I mean, it could be purely anecdotal, but for me, it started, I could tell a difference. And I mean, I didn't really need naps. I don't think I took a single nap during this last prep. But to be fair, I didn't have to do any cardio and my calories didn't get super low.
Oh, so you didn't do any cardio the whole prep? You have
I
a really, do you have a high metabolism? Because sometimes I see your food numbers and I'm like, God damn, this girl's
yeah.
killing it. Like you'll
Well,
have
right
like
now,
so many food numbers. I'm like, I am so jealous right now.
I weigh like 116 and I'm at like 340 carbs and
Are you
75
very
fat.
active, like fidgety and just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just genetically, I've always had a really fast
Yeah.
metabolism. And again, I'm gonna keep harping on Peter. When we entered the off season, I could handle a lot of food during peak week, and he was like, "Hey, because you're handling a lot of food peak week, when you start to reverse, you haven't been gaining any weight, so we're gonna just like jack your calories up." So he put me at like immediately the day after the show, like 2,700 calories. And
Yes.
I just slowly gained. There was
Hmm.
no crazy rebound, nothing. And I didn't do any binging because it was like, I'm
You don't need
eating
to.
370 carbs. Anything I want, I can just make it fit my numbers.
Right.
So it's like, I don't have to binge because I have enough wiggle room where if I want to have a cookie, I can fit it into my macros and I don't have to feel guilty and I don't need to like go off the rails.
Isn't that such a great, so like the post show, like when you handle post, because we could talk about post show because I've definitely blown that out of the water before, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, you're not.
2018.
Yeah, 2018, 2018 was your, we'll just say like that was your brutal one. It sounds like, because like whenever I think about like all the stuff that like my hardest times, 2015. So like we all have a year that was like, okay, all right, I got a funny story for you. You want to hear some post show horror stories?
Always.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know why I find them interesting too, just because we've
Yeah.
all been there. Like I know what it's like.
Also
Um,
relatable. And I think
it's
talking
so
about it helps
relatable.
because I think most people they do this shamefully and quiet and
Hmm.
they don't talk about it. And it's like, all right, if you get it out there that it's kind of normal, I think it helps
Yeah.
people.
So I have a really big sweet tooth. Like it's a off season as well. Like desserts are like I like desserts. I like making little games out of them with people, and it's just fun. I just love them. And so 2015, I was struggling post show. This is when I had competed back to back, and then I was just doing everything wrong. Like watching the Food Network, just like the sleep stuff that I was telling you about. This was all in the same season, and
Oh
then throw in
no.
there a post show, just like binging and stuff like that. So there was one particular binge where I drove to Dairy Queen, and turns out in order to get a birthday cake from Dairy Queen, it doesn't have to be your birthday. You could
Oh
go
no.
there, say, "Hey, I want to have a birthday cake," and they just give you a birthday cake.
Weird.
Weird. So I go there. It's nobody's birthday. I'm not even going to a party. It's just me, party at my house. I
Yeah.
go there. I get a full cookies and cream, with all the Oreos and just everything. And if you
Yeah.
haven't had a birthday cake, like I know Dairy Queen sounds a little basic. If you haven't had a birthday cake from Dairy Queen, you're sleeping, because their
Uh-huh.
birthday cake, their ice cream cakes, like first off, ice cream cake is way better than birthday cake. Like if it's your birthday and you're not getting ice cream cake over regular cake, that's a mistake. Take it from me. I'm a professional.
Oh, right.
And yeah, and then so but Dairy Queen makes it with like this like brownie middle crumble, like this like brownie crumble that gives it like this crunchy texture. There is so good. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
so good. So I end up getting a birthday cake, going back to my house, and Molly, I mean, I ate all but a quarter of it, like
Oh
a
my
quarter of a
God.
bird. I don't know how many calories. I don't even want to know how many calories are in a full, like Google search how many calories are in a birthday cake from Dairy Queen. And so I went and I ate it all but like a quarter, and then I would just like binge out and then throw away. So like with this birthday cake, when I was done with it, it's ice cream. So I just threw it in the sink, turn on the hot water, flush the evidence down the drain. And
Yep.
I remember thinking to myself, like, man, like I was a little nervous because I was like, how, because what ends up happening is like post show, you're so lean and you're so used to seeing yourself so lean for so long that when you start to see like your lines and stuff like that disappearing, it takes time for your mind to like catch up. That's why slow gaining is not, I mean, it's so good for your mind because like it takes time. Your mind has been seeing you for a certain level of conditioning for a long time. So when you start to see all that, going slow helps your mind to catch up.
Yep.
So that's why when people like put on weight really fast post show, it causes all sorts of really traumatic and serious issues with their bodies that can be lifelong,
Oh yeah.
last for a lifetime. Like there are people that have like PTSD or whatever from competing, and then it creates like maybe they did have an eating disorder or something, and it triggers it, or they didn't even have one and it creates it. But
Yeah.
it can definitely happen. And so like if you like I always, whenever I see someone like going real crazy post show, I'm always kind of like, warning, like, learn from my mistakes. Cause when you blow up real quick post show, and I've seen people put on, 40, 50 pounds in like a month.
Oh
Like,
God.
I mean, yeah, it's not good. So imagine seeing yourself the most shredded you've ever been in your entire life. And then within 20 or 30 days, you don't even look like you've ever competed in your life. Like
Yep.
that messes with not only your body, but your mind.
Yep. Well, I think that's what's hard is that's what I had a hard time with too, where like I said, I was really lucky where I didn't do any kind of binging. Um, but I'm only like 7 or 8 pounds over my stage weight. So I've maintained like a pretty good level of leanness, but I just made a post about this, how it's not a failure, but it feels like a failure when you see the scale starting to go up. Even if that's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is to be gaining right now because I
Mm-hmm.
want to be progressing. But I think if you're stuck in this prep cycle for so long, you're conditioned to the scale going down. So when it starts to
Mm-hmm.
go up, even if it's not a failure, it feels like a failure. And then you walk into the gym and you go, man, I used to be really shredded. And now people are probably looking at me going, what happened? And you just want to say, I'm doing this on purpose. And if
Right.
nobody's thinking it, no one's judging you, but you almost want to tell people like, hey, it's kind of a feeling of shame, even if you shouldn't have that shame. And I mean, I'm always telling people stage lean is not, you can't keep it. It's
Right.
fleeting. It's a couple weeks, you're gonna be at peak conditioning,
Right.
and no one expects you to stay lean. And then I am notoriously bad for staying too lean and then sacrificing potential progress because I'm
Mm-hmm.
just, and I always tell women too, especially, I mean, I think men can suffer from it, but women who talk to me about competing, I say, if you have a history of eating disorders, go into it cautiously because I think it really is re-triggering for a lot of people. And I've never had eating problems. My whole life, I've never had a weight problem. I've never been concerned about my weight. And starting to compete, I don't think I'm really bad now, but I think about it more than I would like to.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine someone who has a history of disordered eating, what that would do to them after seeing yourself stage lean, gaining weight, especially if you have like our 2015 and 2018 where you
Yeah.
kind of go a little bit overboard, and
Yeah.
it starts a cycle of binging, restricting, shame. It can get really messy really fast.
I think that's really good advice. Like go into it. Like if you want to do it, do your research and go into it cautiously if you
Mm-hmm.
have past eating disorders, because nothing will trigger an eating disorder like cutting.
Yeah.
That's like that's gasoline on that fire for sure. And then you said something interesting, like going into the gym, after you compete and you're gaining and stuff like that, not shredded. But meanwhile, that what you see in the reflection isn't what everyone else, you still are shredded. Like shredded to a competitor, like stage lean, that is so different than shredded to like Joe Blow. Like it is so different. I mean, you could be 10 pounds above your stage weight and you're still shredded compared to anybody else. So it becomes like what you're seeing. That's part of that post show, like not being able to really see yourself how you really are. One way I kind of describe it, like I describe body dysmorphic because that's like body dysmorphic disorder, right? Would you categorize that as body dysmorphic disorder?
Definitely.
So like body dysmorphic disorder, the way I explain it is, when you go into like a carnival fun house.
Oh yeah.
And then you go to the little like section where they got the mirror and you look into the mirror and then you're like, your whole body's all warped out and stuff. So like body dysmorphic disorder is like when you're wearing glasses that are like they're like those fun house mirror, like fun house glasses. And they're only on when you're looking at your own reflection. And then when you look at the next person, you take your fun house glasses off and then you just see what's there.
Yeah.
Because you don't look at other people and like criticize them the way that you look at yourself and like when have you ever looked at someone and been like, I'm not seeing that line or that vein? Because like I don't know about you, like, but I have like these markers for like when I've reached certain levels of conditioning.
Yep.
Be it like a low vein in my lower abs or like a certain vein in my shoulder. Like there's just these like things that only I would know. And I'm like, okay, I'm at this level of conditioning. Mm-hmm. And so like post show, I'll be seeing myself like become more, as I put body fat on, I'm like more like sustainable and just I'm adding weight. But I'll still have like these, like I'll still be able to see like, oh, there's my lower ab. So I'm like, I'm putting on weight and I don't think I'm lean, but I can still see that lower ab, which only shows up when I'm lean. So like, I'm still fucking lean. Like, and I'm like, and that I think, see, like all that is something I don't like there's no emotion to it like anymore. Like, it's just, this is what I know where I'm at in the process. And that comes from, the decade plus of doing this. And so it's a really that post show can be a really difficult time. But you know what's also interesting about it? Let me know how you feel about this. I feel like a month post show when I'm fully able, I'm able to get a pump. Oh, I should have put you can't get a pump during prep. Like you cannot get a pump for the life.
It's not possible.
No, it's not possible.
No.
So like being able, when you're lean, but then like now your glycogen is all fully stored up, you're able to get like pumps again and your training is all, so you're like you're still lean, but now you're starting to fill out and look like a bodybuilder. I think that's one of the best.
It's the best.
That's the best time. Like that's the best time. Right before you start getting faded, like right before things start fading too much, like, because now you look even better because you're just all filled up because you don't have to worry about spilling. You're just, it's not like you're stepping on stage. So like all your glamour muscles, your biceps, your shoulders, like everything's all filled up and all vascular. And so like that's such a sweet spot. Like sometimes you just want to like bask in that, like be like, I just want to like stay here for a little bit, but the weight's got to come up because like you're still having all the like the side effects of prep. So All right. So, well, that mine was post show. So I think we touched on post. Do you have any crazy post show stories? I always like to
Oh God. Well, I
talk
think the
about.
worst one was 2016. Um, that was another year that I did 3 shows. So, if you have like a stacked season where you have one show and then you got another one and then your third one, so
Yeah.
you kind of have to be conservative with your first and second show, what you get to do after for eating. You're like, all right, I'm gonna have a conservative meal.
Yes.
And then the third show comes and you're like, I'm going all out.
Going hard in
I'm
the paint.
going, yes. So I get all cute. I got my nice outfit on, very fitted clothes, and go out to this kind of dive bar. So everything's gonna be really greasy. And
Yeah.
I got like chicken tenders for an
Uh,
appetizer. And then I'm pretty sure I got like a cheeseburger and fries. And then I had a couple of beers. And I'm not a drinker.
no, you were
So
just like checking
no,
those boxes though, huh?
I'm like, yeah, we're gonna have a good time. I'm like
Yeah.
celebrating, I'm done. And then I went and got a pound of frozen yogurt, full pound,
A
because they
pound
weigh it.
of
A
frozen
pound of
yogurt.
froyo. So it was this
Okay.
big thing of froyo with, I'm a big Oreo and Reese's
Okay. I
fan,
was
so it was
about to
just
say, I know you put
filled.
toppings on it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So lots of Reese's, lots of Oreo. And I pounded that. And it's like you said, post show, it's a bottomless pit. I can eat and eat and eat, and there's just no stopping me. So I just kept eating. And then I was a little bit tipsy because 2 beers for someone that doesn't drink and it stays
Right.
lean it's gonna send you. So I'm in the froyo bathroom, just sick for like 20 minutes. I'm just sitting in the bathroom. And I like I said, I got these fitted clothes on and I looked like I was 6 months pregnant. I was so
Really?
bloated. I just felt sick.
Oh,
I just sat there and I just prayed for it to stop. Like, I'm never doing this again. And I don't think I did. I don't think I ever went that crazy ever again, because it's
it's
like
like,
you almost are thankful for it because then it stops
yeah,
you from doing it again. You just remember that feeling. You go, remember this so you don't do it again. And then you do because it's miserable.
kind of like poisoning your body. Like you're
Oh,
just,
yeah.
I mean, you're introduced. So, like, on top of all the amounts of food and the types of food, your body does not know what to do with all that. When you've been like, you're used to rice cakes and all these like in vegetables, like low calorie foods that are micronutrient. I mean, you throw in fucking froyo and all these different things, like you're gonna get sick. I mean, that's just a recipe for just and beer. Like that's just like
Oh,
so filling and just like your body's like and alcohol. Like
well,
you
it's
just like
expanding.
yeah.
I'm just like, no wonder I was so bloated. Well, that's another reason too. I tell people where their first show, they're like hoarding treats. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get the pumpkin cupcakes and I'm gonna get that pumpkin pop tarts, and they have a big
Yeah.
box full of goodies. And I go, don't do that, because that's just asking for problems. If you have these snacky foods hidden in your house,
It's
you're gonna binge on them. Don't do that. Post show, don't have snacky foods around, or you're setting yourself up for binging.
remember there was this one time I got stories, man. I got horror stories. Definitely things that I'm not proud of. They're funny now though, but I remember there was one time I like you said, don't bring those snacky foods. Yeah, don't bring
Mhm.
those snacky foods. Like don't bring all that shit to the show and like go out to eat, have a great dinner or whatever. Don't bring all these like specialty fucking foods and it just exacerbates the binging. And so like I remember one time I was in the back of Cliff's car and it was me, him, and we were I was just in the back. It was after a show and people were talking and stuff like that. I'm in the back just eating Oreos, just like I ate a whole package of Oreos like in the
Oh
back
my
seat. We
God.
were on our way to go get something to eat. I'm just in the back eating like all these different flavors of Oreos. But there was this time where my brother and I because my I don't go out to eat often. So like I'm
Mhm.
even in the off season, I just don't. It's like a special occasion when I go out to eat. So we
Yep.
tend to like make a thing out of it. And my brother was like, he goes, whatever you do afterwards, like I want in, like it's
It's a
like
big
a
deal.
It's a big deal. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun, and we make it special. So it was him and I, and we went for sushi because sushi is definitely one of my favorite foods.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ordered, I don't know, like 35 pieces of sushi, something like that. My brother, he tries, but he can't keep up. I'm just a bottomless pit at this point. So
Yeah.
most of that sushi was, and it was me, and it's not like, you know, like, yeah, let's get the little tuna. No, like, let's get some badass like
Mm.
rolls and all of the like really killer stuff. Like we're not we're not worried about calories. We're going for pure fun. Like
Yep.
we're having a good time. So we get done with sushi, and then from there, I mean, we're just getting the party started. Like sushi that's just stop number one.
Mm-hmm.
So from there we go to Cold Stone, which is, do you guys have Cold? Yeah, okay. I
Yes,
saw
we do.
I saw the face. And
Yes.
so with Cold Stone, it's like, for people who don't know, it's like a little bar that you go up to, and they have all these different ice cream flavors, really good ice cream, like awesome ice
Mm-hmm.
cream. And then every topping that you can think of, Kit Kats, Heath, Reese's, M&M. I mean, pick a topping. There's nothing that they don't have. Caramel sauce, chocolates. I mean, so I start building my ice cream, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
just see, and it's like a bunch of students, like people work in college or whatever. And I start to see, like, as I'm building out my ice cream, I start to see like eyes, like them, like kind of like looking at each other, like, holy shit. Cause I'm like, I want to make a mountain. Like, I want to make the biggest ice cream sundae you kids have ever seen. And
Well,
so
also
by the
probably
time
looking at you all shredded too, and they're like, "Wow, I don't
and
understand. This goes against
covered in
everything I've
tan.
ever known." Oh God,
But you
that
know
just
what
takes
though?
it to the next level.
But when you're in clothes, you don't even look like you ever lifted a weight. So like I
No,
just
you
look
look
like this.
scrawny, like a little
It
tiny
looks,
guy.
yeah, exactly. So like you're just all covered up. You just look brown. Like you're just covered in tan, right?
Yeah,
Like you just look brown. Like you just came out of a coal mine or something. Like
yeah, yep,
they probably thought like I was trapped in a coal mine or something for this
yeah.
poor
There you
kid's
go.
like
You
so
could have pulled
hungry.
it off. You could have been like, "Oh, it's been so long. I'm starving."
So they start looking at each other, and by the time we get done, they go, "If you eat this entire thing, we'll give you your money back." I
No
was,
way.
I was like, yeah, I was like, let's run it up, like let's go. And so I sat down. I mean, I told you, like I ate basically an entire birthday cake from
Oh yeah.
ice cream cake from Dairy Queen. So I was ready for the challenge. So I start eating this thing, and I mean, my brother is just watching me, just laughing, because it's just so rare that and when I go and do something, like I'm like, all right, let's go, let's have a good time.
Yeah.
But so I wish I could say that I ate the whole thing. I got down to like a quarter, and I could have eaten the whole thing. I could have
Mm-hmm.
done it. But if I did it, I would have been like you were, and I would have been sick. I would have
Yep.
not, yeah, I would have been puking, and that feeling when you start feeling like your body temperature change, and you're like, oh no, this is not good.
Oh,
It's a,
there's
it's
something
a,
about that. You
it's a,
just know it's a problem. Yes. Like
you're
the
like,
meat
this is not going to
sweats.
be
You're
good.
all, yep,
Yeah, it's not going to be. You're like, regret. So I was
yep,
like, so I stopped just short of that. And in hindsight, I mean, it was a good thing. I wish I would have finished it just so I had just for the story.
yep.
But in the moment, I was like, I'm not gonna do it. So
No.
I gave it a good try. But that was, one of my many post show, like, it's a that's a that's a fun time. I think, like, the 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 ability to taste food tastes better than it would taste in your entire life when
Yep.
you're coming off of prep. Like,
Mm-hmm.
food will never taste that good.
Yep.
So it's like, I mean, you know how, like, when you go to a restaurant and like you're starving, the food just fucking hits different. Like you're just like, it's just so good. So
Yep.
that's like, it's like a little kind of, whenever now when I'm in prep, I always look at like the way, because it's so easy to just be like, I'm hungry, I'm so hungry. But I always kind of try to like flip and be like, man, I have this like gift.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like the stuff that you eat during prep, when you eat that in the off season, you're like, oh, you poor bastard. Like, why were you are
Yes.
definitely not right.
I lived for rice cakes. And then now I'm like, why do I eat rice cakes? But in the like prep, you're just like, oh, I'm gonna take these
What
little
flavor?
tiny bites.
Were
Oh
you
God,
okay?
tomato basil is where it's at.
Really? Okay. So
Oh yeah.
I've never had, every time I go there, the tomato basil's there. I just never opt for it. So like I think it's like, again, like I'm going for the sweet stuff.
Oh
So
yeah.
like I always get like my thought process was like I always go for the lightly salted because you get more of them. And you're
Yep.
only really get, I think there's like there's like 7 carbs in one single rice cake
Yep.
versus 12 carbs in like a caramel rice cake. Well,
Yep.
that's a big deal in prep because I want to have
Huge deal.
5 of those motherfuckers, and I want
Yep.
to put, I take Greek yogurt and I put like chocolate or peanut butter protein in that, and I whip it up and I put like toppings and little stuff. Like I want to make like a thing out of it. So like I'm
Yep.
conserving my calories so I can spread that on rice cake. So I still haven't given those up yet, Molly. I'm still
Oh,
like,
it's so good
I'm
though.
almost there. I'm almost graduating to caramel corn rice cakes. I'm almost ready to come off those, 4 or 5 carbs, but not quite there yet because I'm
But you just want
still,
the volume. The volume is so satisfying where you have more to eat, you feel really full. Oh, it's just the best feeling.
um, so to go along, like, so my, like, to go along with that sleep one. Wait, I think, did I go last or did you go last? Where were you at?
I don't even know.
So to go along with that sleep one, do you ever get, so that feeling when you stand up and the whole room starts to spin? Okay, do you
Yep.
ever get that when you're
Yep.
in prep?
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Oh God, it's like your blood, the change in your blood pressure. So like,
Yep.
when you prep, you're freezing all the time. Like
Yes.
you're fucking cold all the time. Like your
Yep.
blood pressure is completely different. Your circulation, all of that is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So you're freezing all the time. And every time you stand up, it's like that feeling when you stand up and you stand up too quick and the whole room starts to spinning and you have to kind of like catch yourself. Imagine that every single time you stand up.
If anybody's listening and has not competed before, you're really deterring people.
I know, I know. That's why we had to like do this. Like, I know. So like, again, we love this shit. We live,
Oh yeah.
this is what we do. Like, and I'll be competing again. You'll probably, you're going to compete again. Yeah.
Yep.
So like when we're saying this, this is more like we're just having fun, like talking about, the drawbacks. And just because, it's fun to talk to people that go through the same thing. Because like, I
Yep.
don't know about you, but like in your inner circle, does anyone else compete in bodybuilding shows? Like for me, other than like, like my colleagues, which I would consider like, Cliff, Pete, like my
Mm-hmm.
colleagues, and friends, of course, but like I'm the only one out of like my like core friend group that does any of this stuff.
I think the people that I'm closest with, I actually met through the gym and through competing.
Hmm.
So that's the nice thing is a lot of the people I'm closest with, we kind of do have all of the same stories, all the same
Mm-hmm.
experiences. And I think that's why I'm so close with people. It's like when you compete, you're a certain type of person and it's easier to relate to those people because you kind of have the same personality type, same goals. I mean, I think I had my bridal shower in 2020, and I think like 90% of the women there I met at the gym.
Oh, really? Was everyone? So everyone at your you had a jacked bridal party. So like everyone's
Oh
there
yeah.
like cut off, like looking all jacked.
One then they went around and they were like, "How did you meet the bride?" And they're like, "At the gym." At the gym. It was just like, all right, we all met at the gym except for like 1 or 2 people.
That's great though. Like, because you meet people doing things that you are passionate about, right? Like
Yeah.
you meet, people tend to bond and to connect over shared interests. So like if you're at a gym and there's a bunch of people that are interested in fitness, like it's natural for everyone to like connect and stuff. Like, did you meet your husband at the gym? Is that where you guys met? Okay, like that's beautiful. Like that's awesome, right? Like,
well, I'm a
I
huge
mean,
introvert and I'm a huge homebody.
mm,
So it's like I go to work and I go to the gym. So it's like that's
and the
my
grocery
social life
store.
and the grocery store. And I take my dogs for a million walks, but like my life is like work, the
Yeah.
gym, my dogs, chilling at home. That's about it. Like I'm very boring in that way, but like I love it. So those are the people the people I'm around are
It's the
the people
same.
at the
Like
gym.
I'm the same way. So like it was funny. So now I live in Midwest Indiana, like my hometown, Crown Point. But I moved to Austin, Texas for a couple years. I had some friends that moved out there. And as I was looking for places, you know, I'm thinking, it's so funny that when your camera, like, can you see when
I'm
you're,
trying not to move. Yes. I'm like
no,
trying to not look
no,
at it.
I think no, if you randomly see me laughing or smiling every once in a while, it's because every once in a while your camera will do this like it's like this dramatic zoom, like like in a movie when someone's talking like serious and it's like slowly zooming in. It's like
Oh
waiting on your
no.
every word. It's so great. But so when I was thinking about like where I'm gonna live and all these different things, I'm like, wherever I go, I could move anywhere. I could move to the coolest place in the world. My circuit, my day-to-day life is still going to be the gym, the grocery store, and my house, which is my home office. But before, when I was working at a like actual office, it would just be like, okay, we'll throw the office in there. So it'd be like home, office, gym, home. So it's like
Yep.
I'm the exact same way. Like you won't really find me out like, frolicking on a Saturday night, going to bars and doing all
Yeah.
this stuff. Like it's just not my style. It's never well, I can't say it's never been. I've just outgrown that phase. And I used to do all that. But so for me, like the routine, the regiment, which I think most people who are very involved with fitness and, bodybuilding, and they tend to be creatures of habit. They tend to be personalities who thrive in that environment. Cause like you said, that's what you do and you are happy as can be doing it. You wouldn't
Oh
rather be
yeah.
doing anything else. And I'm the same way. Like I, I love my routine. Like there's peace in my routine. I love it. Like it's hard,
Yep.
like even sometimes like breaking that and like going and you're like, man, we should really go out and do something, like it's like, all right, like let's go do something. But it's like, or even like going on vacation, like vacation can be great and it's fun, but there's no place like home. And I think that's a good thing because I think it means you really like your life.
Well, and that's exactly it. And it's like I know people who travel a lot, and I'm like, what are you running away from? I feel like you're trying to escape something. And I have a client who they have a really nice house down in Florida, and every year they're like, "You gonna come down?" And I'm like, I don't like going on vacation. My favorite thing about being home is I'm a putzer. I putz around the house. I tinker with things. I have projects. If I'm on vacation, I can't tinker.
Right.
I don't like the beach. I don't drink. I don't gamble. So it's like,
Right.
what am I gonna do when I'm on vacation?
Wait, okay. So what is your vice? Because like you got to have a vice, right? Like there's got to be some form of something. Like so for me, I like caffeine. I
I was
use
just about to say
caffeine sometimes.
coffee is my
Okay.
thing.
All
Yep.
right. All right. All
I
right.
overdo it on the coffee. That's my one thing that I like really indulge on. Because I see
What's
you
the most
drinking it,
amount? Yeah, I'm drinking
and I'm
cat.
like, I didn't get one because I'm like, I'm gonna have to get up to go to the bathroom because it just runs right through me. So after we get off here, coffee.
Yeah. So okay, so like I'll drink pre-workout on a rest day. Like I like yeah, like
Oh my god.
I just like drinking caffeine. So like during prep for me, if you can't eat food and you can't like indulge, like okay, what else is there?
Mhm.
And I feel like everyone has something that they need to whatever it, whatever it is. But I tend to like hearing about that kind of stuff because, like, if anyone says they don't have anything, I don't believe them. Like, there's something,
Yeah.
you got something. So like, what's the most amount of caffeine you've had in a day? We'll say.
I don't know, but I have when I do so I do 2 cups of coffee a day, but when I say cups,
Molly's got she's got
yes,
a cup like as big as her. She's like, oh, I'm on my first cup of coffee for the day. It's just a
pretty much.
giant like chalice.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm like, all right, I do coffee like right when I wake up, and then I'll do one at like 3 o'clock because it doesn't really keep me up at night. And I don't do pre-workout. So I just do coffee before the gym.
You'll do
But you're
hot
right,
coffee before the gym, or will you like put ice cubes and stuff in it? Will you drink hot
hot
coffee
coffee.
right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I
That
go
doesn't
hard.
make you like start like sweating. Well, I guess it's good, you get warm, but like,
Yeah, it's
do you
not
drink it in
bad.
the car? Like,
No, so I'll drink it at like you said, creatures of habit. So I'll
mhm,
come home, eat my pre-workout, make my coffee, and then I take my dogs out and I chuck the ball for them for like an
mhm.
hour.
Okay,
And I just drink my coffee, read my book, throw the ball, and then I'll take them for a walk and then let everything kind of digest. So I drink
yeah,
my coffee at like 3:30 and then I lift at
okay,
like 5:30. So it
okay,
gives me
gotcha.
some time to digest. But during
Hmm.
prep, like I said, coffee is a good filler for when you're
Sure.
hungry. So I actually went and I got a little French press, a little kettle, and then I put some coffee in like a mason jar and I put it in a backpack. And I would bring this whole get up with me to work. So then around like 1 o'clock, I would make my coffee at work, like this intricate French press coffee creamer. I'd put it in a little jar. And that was kind of what got me through, where, like you said, that's the vice. And it got me
Yeah.
through that like weird window of where you're in between meals.
And that's hardly a vice too, right? Like I mean, if we're talking about vices, like caffeine's like hardly a vice, but
Yeah.
it's like you got just knowing that you're doing something like in excess.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, like I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna have an extra, it gives you something to look forward to because, like,
Yes.
I don't know. There is something like about indulgence that is satisfying. And sometimes when you feel so restricted at all times, you're like, I'm fucking bored. I'm bored. Like,
Yep.
you ever get like, well, I'm like, I just need to do something. Like, that's typically like if I'll like get together with, people or whatever. I'm like, I just need to like do something that is completely unrelated to fitness or just bodybuilding because it could, like sometimes I'm just like, I'm bored. I want to do something bad. Like I want to
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
and then but like you said, you're making these coffees or whatever, you tend to spend more time making things when you're in prep,
Mhm.
like making sure, because like in the off season, you probably don't spend that much time like preparing it and
No.
making sure it's just right and, making it perfect. But during prep, you you spend more time on all that shit.
Well, everything's sacred because, like you said, each
Yeah.
meal, and that was, I think that, I don't know if we can go into this, but that was the next thing on my list where
Yeah, definitely. Let's go.
all your meals become very ritualistic, at least for
Mm,
me, where
mm.
everything has to be just so, or it's just like game over.
Yeah. Like, what is your what's an example of that?
So, so I have a cleaning and home organizing business.
Hmm.
So I'm in different people's houses every day. And when it's time to eat, it's like the same time, same meal. I gotta make sure I don't have to go to the bathroom. I gotta have a full water.
Hmm.
And I think the biggest thing, and this would send me into an
Tizzy.
emotional breakdown faster than anything, if I'm trying to have like my Zen moment with my meal and someone's talking to me.
Oh,
Can't. Nope. Phone goes on. Do not disturb. Don't call me. Don't talk to me. I would be at people's houses and I would go and hide. I would
yeah.
I would sit in an empty bedroom with the lights off. Leave me alone. And I feel bad because it's like when you reach a certain point in prep, you get really irritable and
Yeah.
you're so routine. And I'm just like, leave me alone. I'm trying. And I can't really tell people like, hey, don't talk to me while I'm eating. You just kind of have to escape and just
Right.
deal with it because you don't want to sound like a jerk.
Right.
But it's like, this is a big deal for me. And for 95% of the population, eating is just surviving, like, oh, whatever, I'll just have
Yeah.
another meal in 2 hours anyways. But it's like for us, every meal means something. And I'm
Hmm.
like, just let me enjoy what I've been looking forward to all day and just please don't talk to me.
Because
So
it's
it's just,
distracting, right? Like from the enjoyment. Like if you're on the phone while you're eating, you're not really focusing. You're like, you're having to do multiple things at once, and by the time the meal's done, you're like, "Fuck!" That was like my favorite meal of the day, like because you only have like a couple meals of the a day, like 4 or 5 or whatever, and like
yep,
sometimes that like second meal, that's the one you've been looking forward to since yesterday when you went to bed. You're like, I
oh
can't
yeah,
wait to have that meal tomorrow, and then by
yep,
the time it's done, you're like, damn, like I ate that too quick, or like there was someone was yapping in my ear and I wasn't able to focus on that. So
yep.
yeah, I totally know. I totally. What do you have any like rituals while you eat? So like for example, in in fact, like this podcast, like these podcasts are going to end up being long, which to me, like yeah, that might not be good for some people, but the content that I consume tends to be like stuff that I can go to sleep listening to,
Yep.
or because I listen to YouTube when I go to sleep, or like let's say I'm in the shower and I have it connected to my Bluetooth or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
in the car, or eating. Like when I'm eating, I just like having stuff on in the background. I don't like quiet.
Yeah.
Like I don't like
Yep.
just silence. Like I
Yep.
like to have stuff going. So like I'm trying to create an atmosphere where when people can come to these conversations, they can just kind of they expect that they're going to be longer, and they can just like listen in the background doing
Yep.
whatever they're doing, because that's just the stuff I like. So I want to
Yeah.
do
Me
stuff
too.
that I right,
Yep.
right. So when I'm uh eating, I always have YouTube going. Like
Mm-hmm.
I always, so like do you have any like rituals or anything like that while you eat?
So I usually always have something going, except when I'm eating. Eating is my Redditing time. So I will sit on Reddit,
Okay.
prop it up, prop it up against my water bottle, and I
Yeah,
eat,
so
and I just
I do that too.
scroll, and I just kind of go down the rabbit hole of Reddit, and that's my time to kind of consume some
Okay.
junk on the
Yeah.
internet.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's funny that we probably all have like ritual. Like it'd be so weird to just for me to just sit there and eat and not like watch anything, or like just sit there and eat. I don't. It would be like I've been watching stuff while I eat for so long that I
Yeah.
feel like it would just be weird. I don't know if that's. I don't know what that is. That might just be a sign of the times.
No, I completely agree, and I still see. I think people still do that. Where I'm like, what are you doing? Why you got to have something going on?
Yeah,
Like
what are you doing? Just eating, you psycho.
exactly.
um all right, so I think we've touched on two of these, but my a big one for me is like how bad training is during prep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like I don't know about you, but when I train in prep, like do you like lifting? Like do you enjoy, not like during prep, but like in general, you like
Oh
lifting,
my
you like
God. All day I count down
right,
the hours. I'm like,
right.
oh, I'm so excited. During prep,
It's
no.
hard, like it's hard to take rest days, right? Because you you
Yep.
you 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 enjoy the process of lifting and the feeling that you get from a pump or hitting a PR, or just even the chunk that it takes out of your day.
Yeah.
It's an enjoyable thing. Not that it's
Mm-hmm.
not hard work, but it's you're passionate about it. Well, every prep, about midway, things are not fun anymore, and
Mm-mm.
they're all about like survival, and like even like the more knowledge that you have, like like there's something different when you're not building muscle, you're
Oh
just
yeah.
preserving muscle. And I lie to myself, like I know, like I know all the research and everything, but I can't go in with the mindset of like I'm not building muscle right now. Like I still like I'm like, I don't fuck all that science. Like, I'm building muscle right now. I feel like I'm building muscle. I'm building I don't care what the research says. Like I go in with that mindset.
Yep.
But training for me becomes I sometimes get convinced that I don't like it. Like I start to forget. Like I'm like, I just don't think I like training anymore. Like I
Yeah.
but that's prep. Like that's what it does to you. It starts to things don't there's no like shift, like right away shift. It's like things slowly start to happen over time.
Yep.
So it's like this like shift in mindset and training. It's very slow and it's gradual. And I remember when I was working at an office, and I would get off work at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and living in the Midwest, like now, like looking out the window, it's it's getting dark. In the winter, it's already pitch black out. So you're going to the gym after work. It's snowing, it's nasty, you feel horrible, the day has worn on you.
Yep.
And now I have to go in and I have to train to up to the standard, because that's completely different. Like there are a lot of people, and you can see it in like the way that they train. Like there's not a lot of intensity, and it's not up to the standard of what competition training is like. And
Yep.
so to go in there and to flip that switch is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And the
Yep.
your things hurt more, like injuries and all that stuff. Like those are, aches and pains and all these different things. You're so low body fat.
So chill
Oh,
over here for now.
that was
I saw that
great.
coming. I knew that was gonna happen.
I think that thing is possessed. I don't know what just happened. That thing just jumped out at you, and then like the camera started moving.
How
Oh,
appropriate. We got a haunted webcam.
that couldn't be bad. I'm so glad that happened. That is great. So that would be like one of mine would be like on my list. I just put train. So having like lists is like, I like having bullet points. It just works really well for me as a person. I like if I have to give a speech or something, I always just have bullet points, and a lot of times they only make sense to me. So like my note for this just says for training sucks dash strength.
Oh, see,
Like
I
the
totally get it
loss of
though. I
strength.
understand exactly. Yep. That's
Yeah.
exactly how I do lists too, where I'm like, is this gonna make sense to me later?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably will. I'll get it.
Yeah. So that I mean, I think we could both relate to that, is like, and I don't know if that's like such a unique one, where like but I don't think people realize like how, like if you have a hard time going to the gym anyway, prep is going to make that way worse.
Yeah, there's just no way.
All right, so where are you at in your list? Do you have any more? I got one more.
I got probably one more that I think would be, it kind of goes
Okay.
along with the last one that I brought up,
Okay.
which is, I don't know if this applies to everybody, but it's kind of like you said in the beginning, when everything takes calories. I become so antisocial by the end of prep. I don't have energy to talk. I don't have
Mm.
energy to socialize. It's just, you get to that point where you're just like, I just need to be alone. I just need to be in silence. You've just had enough. You need to conserve all of these calories to just exist, and I can't be talking.
How does your family handle that? Like how, or like like what is the, how does your inner circle manage that? Does that ever cause issues? Or I mean, do people just they know like, okay, during this time Molly's going to be a little less talkative and she's going to be a little more focused on this, like let's just help her get it done.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of that. Especially because my husband competes too, so
Mm-hmm.
he gets it. And when he's competed, he's gotten like crazy lean, so he
Mm-hmm.
knows those really hard depths of prep. He gets it, which helps a lot. Um, and my friend competed for the first time. She's got her last show next weekend. And at the beginning of her prep, she said, I'm going to be stoic through the whole thing. And I laughed in her face. Yeah, everybody thinks they're going to be stoic, but your animal brain has a completely different idea for you. You just, you can't control it. So I think the people in my life, they know there's going to be days. And I would like to think that I'm pretty good during prep. I have my moments where you don't have a day where you're just exceptionally tired, exceptionally emotional. It's just a hard day. I had a couple meltdowns where I cried. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, I think because I work alone and I just get to listen to podcasts and kind of do my thing, it conserves a lot of my energy. So
Mm-hmm.
then when I get home, I don't have to take it out on my husband. I can kind of just I'm pretty rested throughout the day. So thankfully, I think the only time it's an issue is if people are talking to me at work, people are getting too chatty in the gym. And
Yeah, that's a big one, right? So like
yeah,
the gym talks, that could be that, and because it does interfere with your training session,
mm-hmm,
which if you do that enough times is going to interfere with your goal, and it's a lot of work that you put in.
mm-hmm.
So like for me, like my natural instinct is to like just just friendly. Like I'm always friendly. I'm like, just smile at anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Always open to, talk and stuff like that for, keep it brief, of course. You don't want to get too cold, but I have no problem doing that. And I feel bad if I don't. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're in prep and you have limited time and you get caught in conversations, like full on conversations, that could end up being a big problem. And
Yeah,
it is a big problem. It could even I even find it to be a little dangerous too, because like if you get
yeah,
too cold, like let's say you got 225 on the bar or something like that, and like you do a set and that felt pretty good, and then you end up having a conversation for 5-6 minutes. Well, you've cooled down a little bit, so like if you go straight into that weight, sometimes that could not feel good. And if you're in prep, like you're pretty susceptible. So I have had like little tweaks and stuff like that due
yep,
to just too much damn chatting. So
yep, yeah,
that's a good one, because I think that's a really good one, because that's like something that not many people talk about, and not many people think about, but that does happen. um and I think we've all had preps where we were just like a Grinch, and I don't think it's fair to do to the people around us,
yep,
because you know most of us are not making $1 billion competing. We're
mm-hmm.
losing money competing. I mean, these things
Yeah,
cost us money in many different ways, and they cost us time. But it's not your family's fault. It's not our family's fault or our friend group's fault for us deciding, because this is all a choice, right? Like all we
yeah,
got to do, you feel like shit, go eat a fucking cheeseburger, right? Like
exactly. Yep,
that's all you need to do.
yep,
It's very we're very lucky. Like we're sitting here bitching, right? Like I mean, we're making, we're having a fun time with it. But we're very lucky to be able to do, like, to be able to restrict food and do all of these things that we're doing, and be able to afford doing all this and train, and people would kill for that, like kill
oh
for that.
yeah,
So
yep,
it's like a huge like opportunity, and we're very lucky to be able to do what we do. So to be a crab, that's not a good look.
no,
And your family and your friends eventually won't put up with that shit. Like
and
I
they
always,
shouldn't.
no, they shouldn't, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not it's so not cool, and it's
Yep,
not warranted.
mm-mm.
They didn't decide to starve themselves,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're just seeing someone act like a complete jerk for, you know, for what? Like, so you can, look good on a certain day. Like, that's not fair to the people around you. So I always, and those things will take strains on things like relationships, especially like you said, your husband competes, so he gets it. So that's like a really cool thing that you guys have in common, because when he's competing, you can support him, and when you're competing, he can support you, which is, I mean, I think that's not compete. I can't. I mean, competing at the same time would probably be pretty rough.
See, I would not. No, I
Yeah.
cannot advocate for that, because I've heard of couples that have done it, and you're fighting for kitchen space. You're both crabby.
Yeah.
You're kind of pressing each other's buttons.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Sure.
I would like to think that I keep myself pretty composed, and I don't think I ever got like mean. I would just get. I had a couple of crying spells, but I got over them pretty quick, and
Yeah.
I was just more quiet than anything, because, like I said, you only have so many calories,
Yeah.
and talking and thinking, it takes up a lot of energy. And it's like, if you
Yeah.
just don't have it in you, you just don't have it in you. So, I mean, like, I told my friend, she's like, oh, I'm really exhausted, because she had her show last weekend. She's like, it was Sunday, the day after the show. And she said, I'm just really exhausted, and I feel really guilty that I'm just kind of sitting around today. And I said, show day is so taxing. The day after my show, the last show of May, I sat and I did my puzzle for 6 hours. I just needed to just be
What did you
quiet.
make?
And
My God.
it was just a jigsaw puzzle. I just
Oh,
sat and I listened to a podcast, and I just did my puzzle. It was
well, was
easy
it
as
a
that.
puzzle of the world? How did it's a big puzzle.
I actually think the one that I did was enough, the haunted house one.
Oh, that makes sense. That's all. That's cool.
Yep, that tracks.
No, so what's funny too is because like your food, like even with a high metabolism, like your food, no matter how high your metabolism, or no matter how high your food stays, because some people could like diet with like high numbers. Like Pete, he's got a high metabolism too. Like he's always, telling me about his high numbers. You still feel the exact same, because when you're lean, you're gonna feel the exact same. So even if you have like the food volume, like you're still gonna feel like complete crap. Do it no matter what. There's no way to avoid it.
And that was the problem. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, I can still hear it. Yeah. You know
Okay.
what is the worst sound in the world? Is
Oh,
that
God.
chirping before your headphones. I can just make them stop. Just stop. Just
Stop it. Just die. Just don't even
Just
warn
die.
me. Just get out of here.
just fucking die. That chirping, and then it's one ear, and then the other ear, and then it's the other ear, and then you're just like, just fucking just die. I don't want the chirping. I don't even want the warning.
Yeah.
Just die on me.
Exactly. But that's actually, I had a really good friend who she also works with Peter, and I was having a really hard time at one point in prep. And I said, how do you get through these times? What do you do? What are some tricks you have with your food? And she told me what her numbers got down to at the end of prep. And it really made me reconsider where I was at, because like you said, where my numbers were really high. The lowest my carbs got during this prep were 170, was the lowest they got. Where it's like, man, that is nothing. And then this friend of mine got down to 40.
That's like, got to what?
40.
Yeah.
And it's like, it puts it into perspective, but it's like, I still felt miserable.
You felt the same, because you got, I mean, when you're lean, it just, it takes a whatever. It's just some people move more, like people with active job, people that sit on the couch, like work from home, like they're just going to burn less calories. Like that's just that, people that, like you're cleaning and all that stuff. You know how that shit, you burn more calories doing that than you do at the gym. Like you don't really you don't burn a lot of like when you go to the gym, you're just lifting. Like and
then you sit not a lot on in between sets, and it's
right.
Like, isn't that much work?
It's not a lot, which is like during prep, I would always try to park in the furthest spot at the parking lot. And just make sure my NEAT was high. So like if I was on a phone call, I would make sure to get up and pace, walk around, like take the long way. Like if I'm at the airport, which I just do anyways, but You don't really see me walking on an escalator. I'm taking the stairs. I'm taking
Yeah.
So it's like
Yep.
doing those little things during prep adds up, and you could actually handle more food when you do it.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've definitely been able to handle more food when I was more active, and then the more sedentary I am in my day-to-day life, I you just got to dig deeper. So
Yep.
one thing I wonder if this one, because this is gonna be my last one. I wonder if this one's gonna be. I wonder how you're gonna feel about this one. Losing so much size. So as a guy, because typically when you start a prep, like for a bodybuilder, you're like 40 pounds over your stage weight. So you have to lose 40 pounds.
Mhm.
During that process, I mean, you're going to lose some muscle, of course. Like the goal is to maintain as much, muscle as possible. But there comes a point, like when you're getting close, that you really do not look like, because you're so flat and you're so depleted.
Yep.
Unless you have your shirt off, you don't look like a bodybuilder.
Right. Yep.
So, if you're prepping through the winter, what even the summer, like you start to get a lot of comments, which, it could be a family member, it could be a coworker, someone will say something like, hey, like, are you still doing that bodybuilding thing anymore? Or like, are you, hey, do you still like lift? And you're like, not only am I still bodybuilding, I'm like, deep into the abyss, like I'm doing everything. My whole life is revolving around it. So to an experienced competitor, hey, that means we're on track. The more sickly I look, the better I'm gonna do, because the
Yep.
person that in order to get to stage conditioning, eyes got to be sunken in, like you don't look well. Like when grandma starts saying, are you sick? Are you, that's are you still, into that bodybuilding thing? Like that's when you're on track.
Yep.
But for like a non-experienced competitor, that could be like a real mind fuck. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Cause like bodybuilding, like size, like we're not, like Mr. Olympia here. Like,
Yep.
we're not going into stage looking like, these crazy Olympians. So that part always stings a little bit when you get those comments, and when you just see
Yep.
yourself as like thin, like you're just like, I'm no longer like muscular. I'm like, I look thin, and then, with a little bit of carbs.
Yeah.
But how does that translate in your world? Like, how do you feel about that? Is that a thing? Is it not a thing? Like,
Yeah, that
you
is
have a
really
version
hard.
of it?
Yeah. I think it's gonna vary from person to person. I feel like for women, it's kind of a little more sought after to be smaller generally.
Mm-hmm.
And especially for bikini, I don't think there's a lot of bikini competitors that are overly concerned with their muscle size. They want that thin look, they want that lean look, and that's why I think it's a lot easier for women to be a little more disordered post show, because they like that. They like the abs, they like the thinness, So I
By
think,
disordered, you mean to like stay lean?
yeah, yep,
Gotcha.
yep. And I've noticed that a lot more with women than I do with men. So I think the men they want to get strong, they want to get jacked, they want to just kind of like be big again. They want to fill out their clothes. But for the women, it's like, oh, my pants are tight again, and it almost feels conditioned to just want to be. I mean, it's all, I know there's different fads. There's thick is in, fit is in, skinny's in. It comes in waves, but I think a lot of times being thin is usually in. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once you see yourself stage lean, that kind of becomes the standard, even though you can't make that your standard.
Yeah. it just feeds into the body dysmorphic disorder, which I do think like every bodybuilder has. When I say bodybuilder, I just refer to anyone that builds their body, man, when bikini, physique, class, whatever, bodybuilder. Everyone has like a little bit of body dysmorphic disorder.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of what makes you want to change your body.
Yeah.
And you just always are seeing things that you want to improve on. But that can feed into it really how you approach really the post show. Like that I can't stress enough like how important that is for mental health, to just like really approach that part mindfully. And you know what? You might just have to fuck that up a couple times.
Yeah.
It might just be par for the course. Like, I mean, I don't know any bodybuilders or anyone who's been doing this for a long time that doesn't have a story.
I've never met one.
Everyone's got a story.
You
so
have to.
I think you gotta, if you are going through that post show or have gone through that post show, I think that's normal for anyone who's done this for a long period of time. So don't feel too bad, because everybody's done that a time or two, and you never know, maybe will happen again. Sometimes it's like you are on that point where it's like it at least crosses your mind. You're like, man, you know what would be good? Just say, screw all this.
Yeah.
Like, let's go have some fun. But I guess that's the skill or the art of it, is when you feel that way, you can tell on stage who stayed strong, right?
Yes, 100%. The stage isn't gonna lie. You can lie to your coach, you can lie to yourself, but you're not hiding any of that on stage.
I remember when I got my bodybuilding trunks in the mail, like when I ordered them, and I looked at them and I pulled them out and I was like holding it up, like I was like, well, this is incentive to not cheat on my diet. I'm like, dude, 100%. I'm like, how am I gonna fit into this thing? Like, yes. And I did.
Yep, that's me too. I get my suits every time and I go, oh my God. And then you put it on show day and it fits like a glove. But
it's good to get it ahead of time, right? It kind of gives you that little like, oh, if for anything, I just don't want to be embarrassed.
Yeah. Yep. Shame is the biggest incentive. I do not want to feel shame on stage.
That's a great motto right there. Well, that's okay. So those are all the one. I mean, I think we touched on everything that we could possibly touch on. How about you? What do you think?
I mean, I think most of it, I mean, we could probably go on and on and on.
Yeah. I mean,
all those little tiny things, but I think that's like the gist of it.
Like the like cliche ones, right? Like the ones that are not so talked about. Like, I mean, I didn't really say, but like restaurants, like not going to restaurants and doing all that. You're like, that's just not even.
I know people that try and fit it into their macros.
Yeah,
and I'm like, you don't know what is in the food that's being made. Like restaurants are out of the question. If you want to prep, you don't get to go out to eat for 5, 6, 7, 8 months, however long. You don't get to go out to eat.
I'm the same way. Like there's just and like I don't go to restaurants like that much in the off season. Like I said, no, I tend to save like my like splurge meals, I'll call them, or like estimated meals or whatever you want to call them, cheap meal. There's a terminology. Everyone has a different term for it. I call them like special meals. Yeah. So I tend to save those for special occasions. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's my brother's, birthday, or maybe it's my birthday. Maybe it's, a holiday, whatever. Or maybe maybe it's just time.
Yep.
But I tend to spend those like with people that I really care about. Mm-hmm. And then it just has to be worth it. So my thing is like, I'm not going to be fucking around on some like, okay, let me just hit a drive-through or something. No. We're going all out, and we're going to get like the best food, like high quality, like we're going to make this high quality. And for some people that, the pleasure could come from something as simple as I got no problem with that. But for me, like, we're going to do this up where I'm going to go to the best bakery, and I'm going to get like, I'm going to get like every flavor that they have. Right.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to tell them, I'm coming in here. We're going to do a project together. I'm going to give you a good tip. And
Yeah.
I need to know which of these is the best. And like, okay, give me 12. Is there anything I'm missing out on? You got you like you guys, am I missing out on anything that you have in the back or something? Because I'm bringing all these, and then I bring them, and it's usually a group of us or whatever, and we all share and we just make like a really memorable, a really great memory.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's, to me, what it's all about. And I find that approach works really well, because it's just more meaningful, and I tend to enjoy it. And the people around me tend to enjoy it more too. They tend to they're like, oh, we're having one of Mikey's like things. Like it kind of becomes like, like our special thing. And so that's how I tend to like approach that. But in prep, it's out of the question. It's not until after.
I kind of like that though, because then it's the ultimate delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Andrew Huberman talks about it all the time, how I think everybody's burnt out their dopamine response. And I mean, food is a huge dopamine release. And it's like, I don't think you get it anymore if you're getting DoorDash every day and you're constantly going out to eat. It's like, it doesn't really mean anything. But then if you're making all your meals at home for 8 or 9 months and you finally, I mean, I think I've only had since the show maybe 3 or 4 restaurant meals in like 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend competed last weekend and we went out afterwards and I got some dope sushi. Oh, good. It was so good. And it was so worth the wait. Because it was just prepared perfectly. It was exactly what I wanted. And it was amazing.
I love that. Yeah, it is. It's more, it's just more special, right? Like it's just, if you're doing it all, like anything, like whatever you're doing, if you do it too frequently, it loses its luster. So I find that's a great approach. All right, so I think we've covered all of the bodybuilding stuff.
Yep.
Now I am super because we align. Like hearing like just even like your outlook on things, or like even like how you said like your world is like going to the gym, to the gas station, or I don't think you said it, maybe I said gas station, but to the like like the grocery store, and then back home and the gym. Like we align on a lot of different things, so I think we approach like our lifestyles very similarly.
Yep.
I am very curious to hear how our favorite horror movies align, because we're both like horror fanatics.
Yep.
I mean, is your birthday in October?
No, it's in very beginning of November.
Oh, is it? Okay, because my birthday's in October. So I don't know if that's like a thing, like for people like who are like October, like it's just natural for us
to gotta be. Well, I wonder if it's like Halloween and our birthdays were around the same time, so we would just get super hyped up. But it's like ever since
gotta be, right?
Anything spooky, anything haunted, I would meet someone's parents for the first time, and the first thing I'd say is, "Do you have a ghost story?" Because that's all I wanted to hear. I just wanted to hear about spooky things. That's all I cared about.
But even like, so like, even the look of Halloween, like the fall, like right now I'm looking out the window, I'm looking at trees with all these different colors, like the wind blowing in the trees, like the orange and the purple lights, like that Midwest fall feel is so connected to like such a strong feeling of nostalgia for me.
Oh yeah.
Like the rain, all of it, just like the whole feeling of the entire month. I get post October depression because I get so bummed out, because like it's just I love just going and seeing other people enjoying decorations and the holiday, and just everything about it in general. Like I've always just really loved the the full month of October.
Mhm.
And so, and like have you ever done the 31, like like some people will go through the month of October and they'll try to watch like 31 horror movies. Like
My friend sent me that. I was like, who has the time for that?
I think only like probably like I know I follow like, so most of the content that I consume is like horror movie stuff online. So like horror movie reviews, just conversations around horror movies. And so like a lot of the like YouTubers will do like they'll watch and review like 31 movies, and
Yep.
I love watching it. Like I like hearing people talk about horror movies arguably more than the horror movie itself. So sometimes
Yeah.
like, especially like with a lot of the new ones, because I'm just going to be completely honest. Like if you pump me full of truth serum, I will tell you most horror movies, if most horror, they suck. Like
They're
they
dog
just,
shit. They're
okay. All right.
Oh my
So
God.
like,
And I don't
but
think there's my top 5 list. I put one new one on there, and I went back and forth on it. I put it as number 5, but all of my other
okay.
ones are like
Same.
90s, early
No,
2000s.
those were the best years for horror movies.
They were.
I same with me. I don't have any new ones on here. But like even like older one, like a lot of horror movies suck in terms of like bad acting, bad writing. They're just a lower quality of filmmaking, which unfortunate like which but I love them. Like I love them. Like I go
Yep.
to sleep. I remember I would this will probably age me, but like when Netflix was, they would send you DVDs. Do you remember like
Yep.
when Netflix would send you DVDs? So like I would always go out of my way. I was like on a mission to get watch every horror movie that they had. Like
Yeah.
just like fucking, and the more ridiculous and the gorier. Like I used to really like the really gory movies, like the torture movies and stuff like that. As I've gotten older, if younger me could hear me now talk, I'd be like, you fucking wimp. Like, what happened to you? But
I said that because I was like, there's so many subgenres of horror. And when
yeah.
I was a kid, I would go and I'd watch Saw. I went and saw all the Saw movies in theaters. And I don't think I have any really gory movies at the top of my list anymore. I can't do gore anymore. I
What?
can, but it's not my favorite.
But why can't, like, so it bothers me now. Like it gets to me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like I used to never be like that. I used to be like, yeah, cut them up, like, oh.
Yes.
But now
Yeah.
it bothers me. I'm like, oh, like that's just so like, have you seen the new Terrifier movies at all? Like, have you even?
No. Is it super gory?
Dude, like I can't even get through it. Like I just can't.
Mm-mm.
Like, and that's another thing too. Like I have not watched like a horror whenever, I don't know. I just don't like any of the new ones. I find them to be boring, or I find
Yep.
them to be just poorly acted. And then when people say that they're good, I'm like, I think maybe we're just like hoping that they're good or something. But
Yeah.
I haven't really been blown away by any horror movies, but I still love them. And
Yep.
I find myself watching older ones more, like the ones that I would watch like as a kid or whatever, and I'll go to sleep. Like I really like always like watching them before I go to sleep. I remember my brother, because my back when we lived at, under our parents' roof, my brother said that he came in one night, because I've been like this forever. Like I've always, ever since ever.
Yep.
And he said he would come in to my room, and you remember when like with DVDs, like if you would fall asleep like watching DVD, the DVD menu would come on.
Yep.
Yeah, so like the DVD menu would come on. So I would like, he said that he would come in my room and I would like had fallen asleep watching like whatever horror movie. And some of those DVD menus were like fucking gnarly. Like they were
Yeah.
just like people getting hacked up and stuff like that. And so like I forget what movie it was. I don't know. It was something hardcore. Like it was probably like Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
You know. And he said that he came in my room and I was sleeping all peacefully, and that there was just like the most hardcore menu just on a loop. And he
Hold
said
you to
he
sleep.
like, yeah, he goes, I walked in and you were sleeping peacefully. And he goes, I walked over and I was just like, and he turned it off and then like went in. He's like, what the hell's wrong with my brother?
A lot. But
Yeah.
I'm right there. So I'm like, something happened.
Normal
Normal people don't do this.
Do you think like, so like what, how do you get like, for me, I remember like the first, because horror movies used to scare me when I was a kid. They used to scare me. So you actually got frightened by them?
Well, and the weirdest thing is I was not allowed to watch them, but I was obsessed with them. So I had a friend who her parents were very lax. So she watched everything. And every single time we hung out, I would make her describe the scary movies to me. And then I would have recurring nightmares about them. She described Chucky to me 4 times a week. And it just sent me, but I was obsessed with it. So I would have recurring nightmares about Chucky and Gremlins. Those were the 2 recurring nightmares that I would have.
That's from Gremlins 2, the new batch.
That one was really campy and fun.
Yeah,
and the
like like Hulk Hogan was in it, and like
so good.
Yeah, like it was like the beginning was like, remember like the Looney Tunes beginning, and you're like, wait, what the hell is this? Like, because the first one. Now I always watch the first. So I got 2 questions for you. Oh, this is so fun. Because nobody like. This is so rare to talk to someone who likes horror. Like it's, I don't know what it, like even bodybuilding, like these are these like niche things, like, which I always have gotten great. Like I've always, whenever anything was like niche or like this little club, like it always turned me on. Like I always like the like stuff where it's like, yeah, this is for me. Like,
this is just mine. I can guard it.
Like you wouldn't get it. And so so I don't like get to have like horror movie conversations, you know, and that's like also like why I watch a lot of the YouTube is because like it's like you're just listening to people who are geeking out over the same shit. And so okay, so I have 2 horror questions for you, and also there might be something to that, like not being able to watch horror movies, because I used to get so scared. Like the first movie I think that scared me was Ernest Scared Stupid, or like,
oh my god, I love those movies.
I remember I went to see a movie with my grandma, and they previewed Hocus Pocus, the original Hocus Pocus, and the trailer, I don't know what movie we went and saw, but the trailer for that gave me nightmares. So I was always like waking my parents up like scared, so they wouldn't let me watch horror movies. So there might be something to not like. I had a friend that would always you know, we would always go to his house because his parents didn't care, and he had all the Freddy movies and all that stuff. So we would always watch that. So there might be something to that, like, hey, you're not allowed to do this. So like,
I think so. Yeah, I definitely think so. Well, my brother took me shopping when I was like 10, and I saved up my allowance, and I got Goosebumps Night of the Living Dummy. And I was so stoked. And it was VHS. That's how old I am. It was VHS.
Yeah.
And I got it home, and my mom took it and she chucked it in the garbage. And I was like, it was like 3 months of allowance, and I wanted it so bad. And she was like, no, we're not doing that. So it's like you said, where if you're not allowed, makes you want it so more.
It's like the people that aren't allowed to party, or their like parents are so strict, and then they just go crazy, right? Like, do you ever see someone like they used to not be allowed to do anything, and then they just go nuts when they're able to go free, like to college 100%. Or something?
Oh yeah.
I always like the intro of Goosebumps, like that, the whole like intro of it. But okay, so what I was saying was so I have horror movies that I watch like during other holidays. So like Christmas, my like Gremlins is a Christmas movie. Like that whole movie is around. So my Christmas tradition every Christmas is I watch Gremlins on Christmas Eve.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Everybody's watching A Christmas Story, and you're the creep that's got Gremlins on. I love it.
Yep. Do you have any like traditions or anything like that with like outside of like Halloween or even like during Halloween, like traditions around horror movies?
Not really. All mine are kind of random. But it's like that conversation where it's like, well, what holiday is A Nightmare Before Christmas?
Okay, so that was my second question for you, because I have major thoughts on this. This was like a big top when I was working in an office. We got in like this, the whole office was involved. The whole office was involved. So, do you think? Look, before it's whatever you want it to be. Art is subjective. You don't have to whatever you want it to be. It is
right.
Okay, got that out of the way. Do you think that The Nightmare Before Christmas is a Christmas movie or a Halloween movie?
So I think it could be both, obviously. But if I had to choose one, Christmas.
And show your work. Why? I want to know why.
Because I think it's like Halloween evolving into Christmas, where it starts with Halloween and then they choose the Christmas path, because it's kind of choose your own adventure, where you like you have Easter, Christmas, and then it's just more Christmas themed. Like it's kind of like it's a creepy town, but they're not celebrating Halloween, they're celebrating Christmas.
Okay, so I'm gonna clip this and I'm gonna send it to my old coworker, and because you just took the entire speech out of my mouth. I was getting prepared to like maybe argue. No, okay. So the whole movie is about the meaning of Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes, it starts in Halloween and it takes place mostly in Halloween Town, but it's about the holiday of Christmas, and he's learning all about Christmas, and he's trying to express what Christmas is. So if you had to choose one, just because like you have these Jack Skellington and you have these creepy creatures, but they're learning about Christmas, and they're just it's Halloween themed, but the majority of it is about the meaning behind Christmas.
Yep.
So that I totally agree. Most people think that they consider it to be a Halloween movie. And I mean, like Halloween Town starts in Halloween Town and ends up in Christmas. But so do you watch that movie during Christmas then, or do you
all the time? I toss it on whenever the feeling strikes. I just toss, like you said, it's nice having things on in the background, and that's one that it's very comforting to have just play.
Yes, yeah. And again, we celebrate. We didn't choose this lifestyle. This lifestyle chose us, and we celebrate this year round. Right now, the rest of the world just catches up.
Yep.
This stuff stays. This stuff was actually over on my sides.
Yeah, you just scooted it in.
I just brought it to the because I do want to make like a background or whatever. You know how like people with podcasts, like they'll have like a interesting shit on the walls and stuff like that. I just kind of wanted to like start like bare bones and just keep it like let's just get this thing rolling before I start like messing with all this stuff. So like today I was like, let me pull the lamp, put all this stuff behind. So all right, so I think for this one we should, because I do have these in order. I have these from you didn't put them in order?
I did, but it was really hard, and there's a lot of things that they could be swapped maybe, but like I said, I almost have to just say it's like choosing your favorite child. It's like they have different pluses and minuses, and so they're put in order, but they could be jumbled.
Okay, so I think we should totally start from 5 and work to 1. Okay, because like now it's like 1 is the crescendo, right?
Yep.
All right, so you're the guest, so you get to go first. And if I end up having one of these on, but then it would spoil. So maybe I should.
Don't say it. We'll kind of celebrate it when it happens.
Okay. All right.
So this was my one that I put in. That's a current one that I actually really enjoyed. And I'm wondering if you actually saw it.
Can I guess?
Yes.
Wait. Okay. So like, is it in? Let's play a little game. Was it in the past year?
I don't know it. I think within the last 2 years.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly when it came out.
What is like, give me a hint. Like, what's the theme? Not theme, but like what genre is it? Not genre, but like subgenre of horror. Like, you got like zombie, you got like, like vampire, you got like different slasher, like different subgenres.
Say monster.
Monster.
Yeah.
Monster.
And
Okay.
I'll give you another clue where
Okay.
a house is a big component of it.
Okay. All right. Okay. A house is a big component of it. Now, a house is a big component of it. A monster.
And it got really good feedback, so people liked it.
And it's in the past 2 years?
I think so.
And it came out in theaters?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, but it was really popular. I had like 4 or 5 people recommend it to me.
Okay, so the fact that 4 or 5 people recommended it to you
And
leads me to
there was some big people in it too.
Okay, so that kind of leads me to believe like it's not like a big mainstream movie. If it's like a couple people, like, because then you wouldn't need people to recommend it to you. It would just be like, oh, I'm definitely gonna go see this.
Yeah.
Monster. Is there like a lot of CGI involved, or like
I don't think so.
effects?
I think that's why I liked it, because there wasn't a ton of CGI.
Wow. Give me another hint. One more hint.
I'm trying to think what's going to give you a hint that's not going to totally give it away.
Yeah. Like if you throw me an actor or something, that might give it away.
See, I was gonna give you the actor, and then I said no. One of the main actors is like one of the top level horror guys. He, big name actor in like the horror genre, is also in this.
I don't know. What is it?
The movie?
Yeah, what is it? I don't know. I can't even, what's throwing me off is like the 2 year, like, because when you were, I was just going to show my work in my head. So like you said house, and I'm like, okay, well, like there's a house in It. And then I'm like, well, It was like 2016. And then It Chapter 2 was like 20.
I just looked it up. It came out in 2022.
2022. So like, okay, so that, and then, does it start with, okay, all right, okay, does it start with a B?
Yep.
Okay. Is Justin Long in it?
Yep.
Okay. Barbarian.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Did you see it?
Yes, I did.
Did you like it? No.
I wasn't, you know what it was? That movie was so hyped up. Everyone was saying about how good it was. So, when you go into a movie and like the expectations are so high. So I have this like new thing now. Movie trailers just destroy everything. Like they just
it gives you all the
everything.
best pieces.
Yeah. Like it's all like third act stuff. Like you're like, okay, like I could really piece this together if I wanted to right now.
Yep.
So I've all but, unless it's something I'm like real passionate about, which I won't say just because I don't want to spoil anything in my list. Yep. But if I know I'm gonna want to see something, I'm just gonna avoid the trailer. So I avoided the trailer with that. But everyone was like, this is the greatest this, and this was so good. And so when you go into a movie and your expectations are really, really high, it never lives up to, what it is. So,
and it didn't come to me really hyped. I had people that just said like, hey, you should check this out. So I kind of went into it like, yeah, I guess I'll watch this. So it was like a pleasant surprise for me, where I was like, whoa, I was not expecting this. And it had like the red herring factor, the creepy factor, the campy factor.
Yeah, so it got campy for sure. Like I didn't expect, like when it got, because I didn't watch the trailer or anything. So sometimes if you think you're going into like a serious movie and it just flips the script, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, oh, this is goofy. Like what,
Yep.
you know what I mean? So it got like real goofy, and without spoiling anything, like for anyone that hasn't seen it, like there's some crazy shit that goes on in that movie.
Yes. Yep.
And so like, but it's like not serious. And you'll probably be able to tell from my list outside of like one, I tend to like things serious. Like when I watch like a horror movie, like let's say like, look, werewolves exist in this world. I'm watching a movie about a werewolf. That's fine. But I want that to be taken as seriously as possible. So I want this to be like, okay, like you're taking the werewolf stuff seriously, like you're, you know, everything around it, even though I'm like accepting that there's like a werewolf, I want everything around that to be like taken super seriously and like super dark, like good, you know, suspense and like all that stuff. Like I just want it to be taken seriously. So I think when the camp gets kind of thrown in, that it threw me for a loop.
We're gonna have very different lists. I
okay.
Like
all right.
I like mine that are like scary with a little bit of silly thrown in. That's what most of mine are.
Okay, I think I'll probably be able. I bet you I know some that are going to be on there then. Like I'm just from saying that. But
I'm very easy to read.
You know what's interesting about that though is that's cool that you got one from like recent. You know, there was
I felt like I needed to throw it in.
What was the other one that was coming out? It was Barbarian, and there was another one that was getting hyped up. It was X. Did you ever see X?
No, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's not as like I mean, it's worth watching. It's not like, you know, people were like, this is the next best. I just haven't seen a movie like that. Like where it's just like blown the doors off, you know, like maybe I just have impossibly high standards.
I would say so. If you're the aficionado that you are, you got to make a real good movie.
Yeah, like and I do feel like the best time was like the 90s, like
100%.
Just movies in general. Like, do you ever notice they don't? Yeah,
everything.
God, yeah,
everything. The 90s was so good for everything.
So like you also like the music that you like we align on that a lot. Have you ever listened to Sleep Token?
No.
Okay, so you like Tool, right? Like I've seen you post some stuff with. Okay, so like Tool has like these really long songs that kind of like almost like bend genres a little bit. They kind of like dip into some other stuff, and it's almost like you're going on like if you're gonna listen to a Tool song, like you might have to put like 5 to 7 minutes aside, you know?
Yeah.
So Sleep Token is very similar to Tool, even sounds like what's his name? James Maynard? Is that the lead singer of Tool? The
Maynard,
lead
singer.
Yeah.
Myself, or I would have been mad.
Yeah, right. So like they even sound a little similar, but like it kind of goes across like multiple genres, and the song is like, you know, it's like a little journey you go on. It's good for training, man. Like it's like it definitely, like it definitely takes you for a little like, you know, ride. And then like the vocals, I like it when you have like that, you know, like my favorite thing about like a song is like when you have a song and like let's say you have the chorus, and then like every time the chorus comes back in, like there's like a buildup, so it's more intense and more intense and more intense. So like they add in different layers of like instruments or like backing vocals, or you know like you could even hear like they layered the singer's voice just at a different pitch, you know, and just like, so it's like as the song is like crescendoing, like by the time you reach that peak climax, it's like so intense with everything reaching its fullness. And it just like, I'm almost getting goosebumps on my arms just thinking about it. So like, those are like my favorite kind of songs. Like,
well, and I always say like, I feel like Tool rewards you for getting through the entire song by all the best parts of the song are the last minute and a half. So it's like a 12-minute song, and the best pieces is it like you said, it builds and it builds and it builds and builds. And then it just like the banger is not in the middle, it's at the very end. So it's like, all right, if you stuck around, you get the best piece of the song.
Yeah. Like I just I love it. Like I really like I love those type of songs that just build and build and build and then they go back down, you know. Or even like God, we could do a whole thing on podcast. Music's like a huge part of my life.
Yep.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Would you rather would you rather be able to never watch a movie again, but then you get music, or vice versa, movies, but you can never listen to music again? And you get music, and you do get the music in the movie. So like the movie stays it. No hesitation. I like that.
Yeah.
Just boom.
Yep.
Same. Nothing makes nothing brings out emotion as intensely as music. Like you could have a room full of strangers, and if you put the right song on, they'll all be singing or crying or bonding, or they're just complete strangers. Like, and they're just, you know, in a room hearing a concert or something like that. Like nothing like music, whether you're in the gym training, like if you're in the gym training, like music's so important.
Yep.
But nothing makes you like feel like, even a movie is not, without the music, it's not like very impactful. Like you need the music to, you know, so yeah, it's definitely, turn this light down. You need it. Like you definitely, like that. I'm the same way. Like music, undoubtedly 100% of the time. Like I could live without movies. I would not want to live without music. It's that important.
No way.
Okay, so your number 5 is Barbarian.
Yep.
I'm so glad I got that. I'm so glad I guessed that.
I knew you would too. I'm like, I'll give you.
Yeah, that was a good hint. All right, so my number 5 is, drum roll, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. I find that the Dream Warriors is by a landslide the best Nightmare movie. Freddy Krueger always scared me. Like,
oh yeah,
like he was always like, if you got like the main, like you got, so you got like Jason Voorhees, right? That shit never scared me. Not even as a kid that
really
scared me. Yeah, he never scared. There was nothing like, I always watched that as like fun. Like it was always like, yeah, kill, like Michael Myers never scared me. Like I always just like liked it. But Freddy, something about him, like, cause maybe it's just like the way that he would talk and stuff like that. And I remember even like when I was like a teenager, I would get really high and I would watch like A Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Oh God,
and
that's gonna just send you to another.
It did. It like added a whole nother layer of like just, you know, like I don't get scared when I watch these movies anymore. Like it's just nothing scares me. Like yeah, a jump scare might get me, but it doesn't scare. Like it just shocks me. Like if you like throw like a loud noise is gonna shock you. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it startles you, but like scared me like to the point where I'm like looking over my shoulder or whatever. It takes a lot. Like I don't get scared anymore. But Freddy Krueger, and particularly because like in have you ever seen Dream Warriors? Like the third one?
I have.
Oh, yeah. So like also like with a lot of these movies, I'm sure there's a lot of nostalgia involved. Like you ever try to show someone a movie and then like you're like, "Oh, this thing's amazing," but then they watch it and they're like, I mean, nah. Like
there's
you're like, "Well,
on that."
I know. I know it's such a bad feeling. You're trying to show someone, you're like all excited, it has all this meaning to you, and then you show it to them and they're like, I mean, I don't get it, you know, and you're like, my soul, like, because you have this movie that's like important to you, you know, or this like song that's important to you, and then they just don't get it. So I'm sure there's a lot of nostalgia. Like nostalgia is a powerful thing, and I'm sure there's a lot of it involved in these movies. Like if someone saw them, they probably think they were silly. But he used to always freak me out, like always scare me. And then so but like in this one, like, you know, like Freddy Krueger's like goofy, like
Oh
got
yeah.
all these like one-liners and stuff. He's not like that in this. Like this is like the beginning of that. So like there's a little bit of that, like, but it's like more like he's toying with his toying with his victims instead of like full on like but like corny, like he looks really like everything is like right in line with like it's like where his peak is. So I always really liked that movie, and I would always like these my top 5 are movies that I'd like watch it like probably every year, like at least like once a year.
See, and that was kind of what I went off of too, where it's like the ones that I just go back to again and again and again.
So like when we're talking about it, we're not necessarily saying like what is the best, it's just our favorite and like what we watch the most.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's not my number 5. What's your number 4?
Do you mind if I take a bathroom break?
No, go ahead. Here, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna pause this because I can just splice this.
Perfect.
I knew this
That's
was
kind of
gonna
what
go
I figured. I'm like, I just need like 30 seconds.
All right, cool.
Okay.
We'll do the same. Okay. What is your number 4?
The Hills Have Eyes, the newer version.
You know what? Damn, that's a hardcore movie too, Molly.
Well, that's another one
that
that's
one's
like
brutal.
It's hardcore, but there's also an element of like it's super funny, but super fucked up at the same time. Like there's
like
one scene
with, like,
that I always show
head.
people. There's one scene I always show people where they're in the trailer and they're attacking the girl, and he's like hitting her with the pillow and he's slapping her, but it's super fucked up because you're kind of laughing and it's like that's so silly, but it's also really messed up at the same time.
The guy
so it
with
takes your emotions.
The guy with the big head. Oh
my god.
Okay, so you know the so the mutant at the end that he fights?
Yep.
Okay, so this was in 2000 and let's see. So this was in 2008 or 2009. I went to Horror Hound Weekend in Indianapolis.
Oh yeah.
With my brother and another friend, and so we go in, and so after these things a lot of these people just go to the bar. So I have a picture with we were just drinking with them. Like we were just, because I was 21, and so we went there and we were just partying, and it was like me, Tony Todd, Candyman, that guy, I don't know his name, but from The Hills Have Eyes, the guy at the end. Yep. And there's a picture of me like with, and then Ken Foree from like Rob Zombie movies and like Night of the Living Dead and all that stuff. So yeah, it's one of my favorite memories. Like it was so much fun because and then my brother. So this is a funny story. My brother, we were in college. We didn't have any money, and so like we went to this thing. We didn't really know what to expect, and like you have to pay for autographs, which of course it's like
right.
And I think this was the first year for Horror Hound Weekend. So we go there, and my brother, who's younger than I am, like I pay for Tony Todd's autograph. My friend pays for Tony Todd's autograph, and he's like looking at my brother, and he's like, like looking like, hey, do you want, and my brother's like, oh, I don't have any money. And he's like, Tony Todd kind of like threw a little comment out at my brother. And then my brother starts saying, hey, he's like, hey, sorry, I'm not a movie star or whatever. I'm just, I don't have any money. Yeah. And then after that, I didn't hear anything. All I saw was my brother arguing with Candyman. Like I didn't even register like Tony. Like I'm just seeing my brother and Candyman arguing back and forth. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, what
are you doing? Your dead meat, bro?
Yeah, it was so funny. And then like later he ended up like apologizing, and like there's a picture of my brother and Candyman on the back of like a cab, like sitting there, like just like bullshitting. It was crazy. It was so much fun.
That's a good story.
Yeah, and it was good because it was like before these like things like these events were like real huge, like now there's gonna be a ton of people, like
Oh
can't
yeah.
really get like intimate time with these, like, you know, celebrities or people that you grew up watching. So
Yeah.
it's something we laugh about to this day.
Well, that's
So
awesome.
all right, so my number 4 is gonna be like, this one's gonna be cliche, but I'm just being honest, like favorite movie, so the original Halloween.
Ooh, yeah. Classic.
Right, like you can't, like, what list isn't complete? Like if you're giving me, so one way I'm kind of going about approaching this, like, is if the, these are the 5 I get to watch the rest of my life.
Yep.
So like, how could Halloween not be on that list?
Yeah, I get that.
Is it on your list?
No.
No. Okay. I like that you're throwing out some, like, this is interesting because you're throwing out some like pretty, like, Hills Have Eyes. Like,
Yeah.
that's pretty obscure.
And I
That's
watched it like last month. That was
It's
like the
not
last time-
mainstream. It's better than the original. I mean, Hills Have
Oh,
Eyes
yeah.
remake is one of, that's like when, so like, you remember like in 2000, like, so like 2004 is when Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake came out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like really what kicked off the remake craze. Because then you
Yeah.
had 2004, then you had 2000, like 2009 was Friday the 13th remake, but then like, and then like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, but like, and like that Friday the 13th remake, that's like my favorite Friday the 13th movie. I think it's
really
the best
good.
Friday. It's so good. Like, that opening is gnarly. That
Yeah.
opening is like, it's all downhill after that, because like you that's the best. Like, it doesn't get better Friday the 13th anything than that opening. Like, that opening is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And but like between those, like, that's when, like, I mean, Hills Have Eyes, Piranha. Do you remember like in Scream 4, like she's like listing off at the end like all the
Yep.
different remakes and everything? She's like, and there's just like 30 of them.
Yep.
Like, which one, When a Stranger Calls, like, so like out of all of the remakes, Black Christmas, blah blah blah, like out of all of the remakes, like, Hills Have Eyes, like, is such a good one.
Yep.
Okay, so what's your number? Are you on number 3?
Yep.
Okay,
It's
what's your number 3?
interesting. You just said it.
Oh shit! Wait. Oh, what did I just say? It can't be Piranha. No way.
No.
I said Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. Your eye just went like that. No, okay. So I said Friday the 13th, 2009. What did I just say? When a Stranger Calls? No. Okay, all right. Because that's a pretty bad one. Did I not? I said I started going through remakes. What? You know what's crazy is I just said it and I have no idea what I just said. Black Christmas? Well, okay. What the hell? Scream 4?
The original Scream.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Respect. I mean,
Well, I like all of them. I burn through, like, when I'm on a Scream kick, I just go right down the line. There's nothing more classic than Ghostface, and I think it's super nostalgic for me because I had the costume. That's what I would go for Halloween.
Ghostface.
I always went as Ghostface, and then I did this really, really dorky, embarrassing thing when I was like 10 or 11, where you remember the old school camcorders that you'd hold?
The old school, yeah, for
The
sure.
ones that had,
You
like,
put a
the
little
flip
tape
out
deck
screen?
in them. Yeah.
Yep. So we had one of those, and you'd put the little tape in, close it up, hit record. I would put my Ghostface costume on, turn off all the lights. You could just see a little bit. I'd prop up the camera, and then I would act out scenes as Ghostface.
Tell me you got these videos.
I bet they're somewhere.
Your parents have to have them somewhere. That's like gold.
I bet they do. I honestly, next time I'm there, I will ask if they still have those stupid cassette tapes.
Fucking funny.
It was ridiculous.
That would be some like gold right there if you still had those. I
But I did
mean,
it as like Ghostface in Scary Movie. So I did the stupid things like hiding behind the couch, giggling. This
yeah,
just the stupidest
like where she's like, I
10-year-old
could
thing.
see you right behind that. I
Yes.
could see you behind the
Yes.
couch. Like,
Yes.
no, like, I mean, it is a like any at this point. I mean, to say that's not a classic, like you're just wrong. Like it's not even. You're just wrong. Like it did so much for horror. I mean, it because after Scream, then you had like boom. I know what you did last summer. Urban. I mean, it was slasher craze after the original Scream. Now, what did you think about the new Screams?
They were all right. They can't touch the OGs, but I do
Okay.
like that they did a good job paying homage to the originals.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they kind of incorporated some of the other people from the OGs into the new ones. But it's like we said, the new scary movies can't touch the old ones.
So I disagree. Oh, this
Oh,
might be the first time that
yeah,
we
let's
have
hear it.
So what I disagree about is the new Screams. I did not like them. The
Fair enough.
reason being is they whenever like if you like let's take the first Scream for example. When you trace it back to when Ghostface did his business, like you could make an argument for like, okay, this was this person who did it. Stature, mannerisms, the way things were done, like it's okay. Like remember what I said about like when I like look, this is the world we're in. I want it to be taken serious. So like with these new ones, if you trace all of the, you know, like the killings or whatever back to each Ghostface, like they don't make sense. You have a how tall are you?
5'2".
Okay. You have a 5'2" girl who is killing people that are like 6 foot, and in the Ghostface costume they're like 6 foot, but then when it comes to reveal, all of a sudden it's a 5'2" girl.
Oh, yeah.
So how does that like that's to me it's disrespectful of the audience, and I'm like,
yes,
you mean to tell me I'm sitting here because I'm in my mind I'm doing the math. I'm like, okay, because the part of the Scream is a whodunit, so like the whole fun part of it is like going through and they're like trying to figure out who it is. So like I'm trying to do it in my head, and I'm going over and I'm like, can't be her. She's 5'2". Logistically, it can't be her. Like it's you know, that's like look at like, and you're seeing a full Ghostface taller than like it doesn't make sense. So then the reveal comes and I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. Like that's I can't buy that because you can actually trace who is who back to who did it, and there's like full on there are YouTube channels dedicated to this, and I watch them. Yeah, well, I watch them. Good. Yeah, that's like I like that kind of stuff, and so I, as an audience member, feel very like really. Remember how I said like horror movies are dumb? Like, why do they got to be dumb? Like, make it make sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with
that.
Like,
make that make sense. Like, all you got to do is make that make sense. Like, and then, you know, like, it's not like this, like, oh, what? Like, oh, really? And then they just keep doing that. Like, so same thing happened in 6. Like, 6 started off amazing, and then it just went off the rails with the, like you're just asking me to suspend my disbelief too much. And they didn't do that at first.
No.
Right? So that's my stance on the new ones. But boy, do I respect the hell out of that pick.
I appreciate it.
So that was your number 3, right?
Yep.
Okay, so my number 3 is The Thing, the original The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. Have you ever seen it? And have you? So this was like probably like 1980s.
Yeah, I think it's been a really long time.
Yeah. Body horror, man. That stuff scares me. Okay, so remember how I said I don't get scared? I get skeeved out by like things like The Fly
Oh,
or
yeah.
like The Thing, where anything can get into, maybe this goes back to bodybuilding, but like anything that can get inside your body and
Yeah.
start changing things around and
Yep.
start
No,
making
yeah.
start like when anything starts like growing off of you or like starts mutating you, that freaks me out. Like
Well, that's
I'm
why
a
when I was a kid and I'd watch The Mummy, I had to shut my eyes during the beetle part because those beetles would
oh
burrow
yeah,
under
they
people's
do.
skin. I couldn't watch it. I was like,
Yeah,
that's
I
what really
remember
got
that.
me. Oh,
Yeah, that's like that's like the most horror part about The Mummy is like when the
oh yeah.
beetles, like remember like at the end when he's like he gets killed by all those beetles and stuff. It's like going through the skin and like like
They
all
knew
that stuff.
they knew that's how to end it.
Have you ever seen the movie Arachnophobia?
No.
Oh, you
No.
go. Okay, this movie. So like apparently they're remaking it too, but like this movie, they use real spiders for, and it's the type
Oh
of movie.
no.
So it makes such a big difference when you use like real over CG. You just don't get the same effect. So like, it's the type of movie where like you'd be laying on your bed watching it, and like the tag from your pillow like hits you in the neck, and you jump. Like it kind of it freaks you out because there's just spiders everywhere and they're all crawling all over everything. That will really skeeve you out.
Yeah, I hate
but
that.
but the thing, it's like it's very character driven. It's very
I
well
like that.
written. It's very well acted. And once again, it's kind of like a whodunit. Like you don't
Mm,
know. Like have you ever seen the movie The Hateful Eight with the Quentin Tarantino movie The Hateful Eight? So
no.
basically, it's like you have all these people isolated and in a one location, which I really like movies that take place in like one location. There's
Oh,
something
that
cool
takes
about it.
talent. Yep.
Yeah. And so like they don't know who is the thing, you know?
Oh.
And so because the thing can transform into
Mhm.
any person. And so I love that aspect of like you don't know who to trust. You don't even know if you can trust
Oh.
yourself.
Oh, I like
So
that.
yeah, I really like that. And also I like movies that take place in the winter because it makes me feel comfy when I watch them.
Oh, I totally relate to that. Yes. Yep, 100%.
Um all right, so that's my number 3. What's your number 2? Oh man. I think
We're
you're
getting
gonna
down to the wire here.
yeah.
So this is one that I have to show to everyone that will watch it. Trick or Treat.
You're talking about with Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's badass.
It's
Great
so
movie.
good. Oh,
How did they
so
never
good.
make a second one? Are they supposed to make a second one? Like, I think Michael Dougherty, because like, what else has he done? Michael Dougherty is the director. Like,
I don't
what
know.
else? I love the when Marilyn Manson's Sweet Dreams comes on.
Oh, it's such it ties it up
That's so cool.
perfectly. It's just the
So
perfect song,
cool.
the perfect ending.
It's so cool. Like, I love like, and it just goes with the whole scene. Like you hear it building up and then it ties everything back in. Is that something you watch every Halloween?
Oh yeah.
Or do you just,
And that's just a year-round thing too, where it
yeah.
doesn't even have to be like around Halloween. It's just whenever the feeling strikes. I'm like, yeah, it's been enough time.
Is it the best anthology? Like
I
what's a
would say so.
better, like what is a better, you ever watch Masters of Horror when that was on Showtime, like back like in 2000 and like 2009, 2010?
No. Good.
Did you ever watch Tales from the Crypt?
I don't think I did.
Okay,
No.
so back in the day, actually, you know what's fucking I made a list of the good episodes. Not I have it somewhere in my notes. But it's an anthology. There were 2 seasons, only 2 seasons, and Masters
okay.
of Horror. So they would have a major director like John Landis did, who did American Werewolf in London. John Carpenter's did an episode called Cigarette Burns, which is awesome.
Mhm.
Probably like the last good thing that he actually did was that episode. And just like these big hitter horror movie directors, they would all direct an episode. And they did 2 seasons. It used to be on Showtime,
Okay.
like way back. And there's some good. I mean, there's like some of them suck. but then there's some good ones. And I always like those like little tales of like one episode, like the one, a one and done episode. It'd be like maybe like 45 minutes to an hour long.
Yep.
I always used to like Tales from the Crypt. And each episode had like whatever. Some of them were funny, some of them were just straight scary, some of them were stupid, some of them were just goofy. Like,
I
but
like that mix.
I do, yeah, so do I.
Yep.
And wait, how did I get on Masters? Oh, Trick or Treat. Yeah, like
Yep.
I think Trick or Treat is probably the best
Oh, yeah.
anthology for Halloween. So that's your number 2?
Oh yeah.
That's a good, that's good. Okay, so my number 2, From Dusk Till Dawn.
Ooh, that's a classic.
My so like that's probably my second most rewatched movie to my first one, to what's going to be
Yep.
my first pick. But the first, I love how that movie, like one of my favorite things about that movie is it switches on a dime. So like I love showing that movie to people that have never heard. Like when someone tells me they've never heard of it, I'm like, don't watch anything, no trailers, don't even look it up, just watch this movie, because that movie starts and then switches like that, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I'm watching this. I don't even really want to say, because like I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but like I'm watching, because like it's like what bodybuilding audience is like a horror movie. Like we're a very few, so chances are anyone that listens to this probably maybe hasn't seen it. But so I don't want to like give it away, but like you start one way and then out of nowhere it switches completely and you're watching a completely different movie.
Oh,
I love that. Like even my tattoo. So like my tattoo is from the movie. So okay, so like at the end of the movie, he takes his jacket off. Like so like he has a tattoo that goes all the way up his neck and then all the way down to his wrist. And he's got a jacket on the whole time, so you can only see like little bits. And at the very end of the movie, he takes his jacket off, and then you have the full reveal. So when I got my tattoo, I somehow in my 17 years of age had the bright idea to not get it on all the way up to my neck and arm. Not against anyone that does, that's fine, but for me at that age and for what I was doing, it just to tattoo my whole arm up to my neck would have been very aggressive. So I decided to get it just from like the sleeve part up to here. And but that's from Dusk Till Dawn.
So that's badass. I love that.
So that movie, like that, I had that movie, like the DVD was just like fucked up. I had that movie. I would watch that movie so many times. And the writing in it, and just Quentin Tarantino, George Clooney is probably the biggest badass of all movie cinema in that movie. Every line that he says is like could be on a coffee mug. Like he's just so cool. Like it's like the definition of cool in that movie is George Clooney. Like there's no cooler guy than him as Seth Gecko. So
if you want to be cool, watch him in that movie.
Exactly. Okay, so that's my number 2. All right, so we're coming down to the wire. Have I question, have I said your number 1 yet? Like, have I? Okay, all right, so like this is gonna be a complete surprise.
This is the one where I can watch this one constantly. I have so much fun showing it to people, because there's
really?
like there's a certain part at the end where when it's on, I turn to the person I'm watching with and I watch their reaction, because it's so wild and it's so fun to watch.
Okay. Now see, like part of me wants to guess.
Try it. Based off of my other movies, you can probably get an idea of like the types that I like.
Yeah, right. So like, is it older?
Early to mid 2000s.
Okay, so it's early to mid 2000s.
And I think it was Lionsgate that did it.
Oh, Okay, so is it mainstream? Like, is it mainstream now?
I would say so.
Okay. Are they still coming out? Like, are there sequels to it?
No.
Oh shit! There goes my guess.
What were you gonna say?
Well, oh wait. Well, because I was thinking, I don't want to guess because I don't want to guess wrong. Like, if I say it, because you just want to hear my work. Because, like, so I'm thinking of, like, right now in my head, I'm thinking of like movies with twists, like good twists.
Yep. Correct.
Okay, so like, I have one in my mind, but it doesn't really line up with your top four. It's like more serious because it sounds like there might be a little bit of camp involved. Is there camp involved or not really? Is it like a total serious movie?
I would say there's some camp involved.
Okay, all right. So it's definitely not.
And there's some
Like,
big name people in it too.
Okay. Give me another like hint, but like okay, so what subgenre? Like Alien,
I'm trying to think how
Ghost.
everything.
Oh shit. Wait a minute. Okay. I think when you said everything, I think and you're saying camp. Okay, I think I know what it is.
What is it?
Okay, and you're saying there's big name, like they weren't big name in it, but they're big name now. Like, was this the start of careers for certain
It
people?
might have been, but there's someone in it who was huge and made like a cameo in this.
Oh, at the end?
Mm-hmm.
I know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Cabin in the Woods?
Yep.
Oh my god.
I knew you'd get it.
Can we take them? I am glad that I'm getting these right.
Yeah,
That
you are.
movie's
You were the champ.
amazing.
Oh my god. Like
That
I said,
movie's awesome. I know what scene you're talking about when they go in and like they unleash the fucking no.
bam.
Yeah, that part's insane. Or like when he rides the he's like a hero like and he's like,
Oh,
all right, I'm gonna go do this. And he hits the ramp and
that's what
then
I
he
mean. Where
drives
it's
just
silly, but it's like
yeah.
serious, but it's silly,
The
and there's
that
some
is a
weird meta aspect to it. It's very different.
that movie is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I saw that movie in movie theaters and I was blown off. I was blown away. And I love movies that end like not how you're expecting. Like I
I like
love it.
I don't want to be able to guess.
No, like you know what movie's got such a like you remember the movie The Mist?
I never watched it because I heard it was trash.
You know, the like when you go back and watch some of these movies, like the CGI is pretty lousy in it. It's definitely not trash. Like
Oh,
it
okay.
probably has like so like I mean the it just has an ending that you're not expecting.
See, and
Um
that might be why people didn't like it because they want something predictable. So that
yeah,
could be
see
why people didn't like it.
I love movies that end when you're like on a downer. like
You're one of those.
yeah, I'm one of those and also I like movies to me like horror movies like the scariest thing about horror movies isn't typically the monsters. It's typically the people and like movies that end up like let's say you have external factors like monsters or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like the way the people react and the things and the decisions that the people make,
Yep.
that always ends up being like the most like frightening because like it's true.
Well,
Like
we're
it's
susceptible to that. Humans are like, there's no monsters, but there's humans, you know, and it kind of,
humans become monsters, especially
yes,
like when things like resources or like food and power, like once those things go out, people become monsters. So movies that kind of like play on that, those movies really get me going. That's an awesome pick. That is an awesome
happy
pick.
I got
Yeah,
the
I like that. So like, I feel like your picks are definitely more like obscure, and I'm so glad, because I feel like my picks have been a little. Actually, I feel like my picks have been a little more cliche, but
why they're good. Like that's
yeah,
why
they're
you keep
good. They're
because
good. I'm just being
they're
I'm
great
being
movies.
honest. I'm
Yeah.
being honest. I mean, you said my number one.
Did I? Oh, what is
Oh
it?
yeah, we talked about my number one. It's my favorite movie. I've seen this movie. I could recite this movie. I mean, I could just recite this movie. Like I've gone to I've met the cast of this movie. I've gone to conventions by myself to see this movie. Like this movie, it's my favorite movie of all. It's not just my favorite horror movie, it's my favorite movie of all time.
Which one
I
is it?
love You gotta guess.
I'm not as good as you are.
We already said it.
Did we say it a long time ago?
No, not too long ago. Maybe like 1 or 2 points ago. Oh man.
I'm never gonna be able to remember.
90s. 90s. Dimension films. Like, what do you think about when that Dimension, remember that old like Dimension
Yes.
before Harvey Weinstein was like ruined everything?
Yeah.
Piece
I
of
remember
shit.
because
But
it didn't it come out kind of like this. It
yeah,
was like
it came out
it
in
was
blue.
long, it kind of stretched across the
Yes,
screen.
it did.
I'll never be able to guess it. What is it?
Scream, the original.
Really?
It's
Oh, I
my
didn't know it was
favorite
on
movie of
mine.
all time. It's
Oh,
my
good.
favorite movie of all time. I love
Okay,
everything
I'm
about
happy
this
that
movie.
we have one that's similar.
Yes.
That's
And
on the
it's
same
like,
list.
that's why I was like trying to play it cool. Like I was trying not to be like light
Yes.
up. Cause like when I talk about this movie, like this movie, when I first saw this movie, so this came out in 1996.
Mhm.
I didn't know anything about this movie. I just was like, I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies, but somehow I got my hands on the VHS.
Yep.
And I remember my family was outside, like doing like, it was summer. So like they were doing like summer shit. I don't know. They were out on a boat with their friends or whatever. And I put the movie in VHS and I watched it. And I think this is the only time I ever did this. I watched it. And as soon as I watched it, I just rewound it and I watched it again, like right there
Wow.
on the spot. Like, and I remember thinking, because even though I was so young, I think I was in 6th grade, I remember thinking, like, did they just kill like this? Is she dreaming? Like, is this like not a dream? Because this was like back before like movies could get spoiled. So like you see Drew Barrymore in the opening, you just recognize this is like an A-list actress.
Yep.
So you don't just like think that she's gonna get like not only killed, but like eviscerated.
Oh yeah.
And that's how the movie opens. So
Yep.
everything from that scene to the reveal, like that whole kitchen scene,
Oh, I lived
it's
for
like
that.
it's my like favorite scene of all time. Like,
Did you see the story I posted? Because I watched that like a month and a half, 2 months ago. Did you see the story I posted? I
I think I
recorded
did.
the scene
Yeah, it's so good.
when he hits him with the phone.
Yeah, and he like ad
And
libs it.
but you find out that wasn't
Yeah,
that's absolutely genius.
I know.
And they're such good actors and they're such doofuses. It's like the perfect scene for a movie.
And I think that my mom and dad are going to be so mad at me line is also like and those are like the best lines. Did you know that you can go to that house and stay there, and like they'll
Really?
have like you can go there, like they have like tours or whatever.
Where is it?
It's on my bucket list. It's in California.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah,
That would be
it's on my bucket list. Like I want to go there, and I think you can actually spend the night there. And I think
I would
like you
totally
sit
do
there
that.
with a group in the living room where they were all watching where they were watching the movies, and they
That's
would sit there and watch it. So, Scream is forever my number one favorite.
Oh yeah.
Scary
Yep.
movie.
Totally agree.
All right, Molly. I don't know how long we went. I think
A
we
long
went
time.
we went for a long time.
Mhm.
I'm really happy you got to come on for the Halloween episode. I really appreciate you jumping on. Before we wrap this up, is there anything you want to promote? I am definitely like, I'm going to have your Instagram and all that information up here like the whole time. So like, is there anything else that you want to promote, or is there anything that you have going on or that people should be on the lookout for?
Not really. I just like working out. If you follow me, you'll find
Okay.
lots of stories about my dogs and Halloween and spooky stuff. And yeah, nothing too crazy. I just like going to the gym.
Well, you were the perfect person to have on for this episode. I couldn't think of anyone that would, be able to match my horror knowledge. So I really do appreciate you coming on. I think that we talked about like some good stuff here. And like some of those drawbacks, I think were things that people were going to relate to. So, I do hope that you have an awesome Halloween, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, I'd love that.
All right, Molly, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.